With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
It's time for us to roll once again on a Tuesday night for a GT3 doubleheader, this time in the Styrian Mountains. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV as we're ready to rumble here at the Red Bull Ring. We start off with GT3 fixed action with qualifying already underway. Delighted to have your company here on RaceSpotTV, where my name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside in this RaceSpotTV commentary box by the one and only Joey Tebben. Joey, it's been an electric start to the season, to say the very least, and Sebring and Imola, two very different tracks, but the level of chaos was shared amongst the two of them.
two very different tracks, two very different results, but like you said, the identical thing was in a field this big, in the GT3 Fix Series and coming up later in the GT3 Sprint Series, it's 40-plus cars every single week. There's always chaos, there's always drama no matter where you go, and this week we go to a place that has a very, very tight hairpin at Turn 3, the first big braking zone. It's a place that does tend to lead to a lot of chaos, and could very well lead to many, many bumpers flying off on lap 1.
Let's not forget that after this, the two series that we have on deck for you today diverge. We go to Watkins Glen first up for the GT3 Fix Series before we reconvene at Belle Isle to run our way all the way to Hockenheimring at the very end of the season. Well, with 2 rounds in the books, here's how the championship standings line on up. It's Evan Smogor that has a slender margin over Eric Kulager, Alexander Abedi, and the rest of the chasing pack. But again, 1 win for Evan Smogor at the top. Colin McKenzie got the win in the second of the races. He is all the way back in 18th position. How does it look in the team championship, though? Because, of course, that's where maybe some trends starting to poke their way out a little bit more. Well, Vulture Motorsports North lead by 17 points over Lunatic Racing, just 3 points further back. Flying Lion Racing's a 3-car breakaway at the front here, Joey.
And Vulture Motorsports won the team's championship last season, but they do have some bigger challengers here with the addition or the joining of Flying Lion Racing this season. Lunatic Racing with Colin McKenzie and a few others has been a little bit bipolar this season. Of course, Colin McKenzie won the race last week at Imola, was nowhere at Sebring though, and seemingly on the timesheets here at the Red Bull Ring, down in 19th in qualifying. So Lunatic Racing needs to work on the consistency a little bit and also improve their numbers a little bit. The fact that Vulture Motorsports has a good 6 drivers on their team is really helping them.
I'm glad I brought you in because consistency is the word that I think is so difficult to come by in a series with so many cars out on track. Before we get underway, though, with the cars out on track for qualifying, it's time to thank those that make all of this possible. Advanced Sim Racing. We'll come back to that in a few moments' time. Qualifying underway right now, Joey. Draft's going to play a bit of a factor, but let's not forget the turbo-powered car is going to have a bit of an advantage as well.
And we mentioned in pre-race when we were talking BMW, one of those turbo-powered cars, and surprise, surprise, 1, 2, 3 in qualifying, Davis, Abedi, and Wright, all driving BMWs. They have just been broken up, though, because as we were speaking, good old downtown Gary Brown and the Porsches finally got a representative lap time on the board. He spent the first 11, 12 minutes of this qualifying session just kind of flailing around, getting held up, getting off track, spinning, but he's finally got a representative lap time on the board.
Well, thank Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. RaceBox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you are looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Muradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit muradness.com. And Ninja Trader. Better futures start now. Trade the world's future markets with Ninja Trader. Visit ninjatrader.com to access unlimited free trade simulation. So, as mentioned, qualifying already underway, and, well, it's a tenth of a second that splits the front 3 rows.
And while we were reading through those ads, Evan Smogor managed to get up to P3 in that Porsche, so he's got a more representative lap time on the board as well. Your pole sitter Luke Davis crosses the line for Lunatic. No improvement for him, but he still has the luck of the Irish on his side a couple of weeks after St. Patrick's Day, and it is paying off for him. Finished second at Sebring, didn't have the best race at Imola last week, but in a season that seems to be a little bit up and down for every driver, it's going to be all about consistency across the season, across the many different types of tracks. Luke Davis, P1 and P2, that's pretty consistent across 3 races.
I think the thing it's going to be interesting with this BMW is that we mentioned turbo-powered cars maybe going to have a bit of an advantage at altitude, but this BMW maybe not the most nimble of cars, and while there are some heavy braking zones, the middle sector does require a little bit of, let's say, dexterity for the car to be able to jink its way on through. We'll ride with Luke Davis down the hill out of Schlossgol in towards turn 5, 6, and 7. This is also where off-tracks are so important to make sure that you avoid. Also important to avoid a spinning car in front of you, and that's Luke Davis that bails on the lap.
Downtown Gary Brown goes uptown. P1 for Gary Brown. Great lap time from him. He saved the best for last.
I mean, he's still got some time to go. I mean, there's a half smile there.
Of course, he's not downtown anymore. He's been very, very fast here, and he's just had one of those qualifying sessions that you can definitely have in the PRL in open qualifying. You get 20 minutes. You think that's plenty of time, but with 40-plus cars on track, and in a place like this where it's so easy to get off tracks, it's very, very easy to waste the first 10, 11 minutes just kind of flailing around, failing to get a lap time in. But Gary Brown has finally found the rhythm, and that's going to be tough to beat.
And we'll see if anyone is going to get close to him, because it is a full tent that separates him from the rest of the chasing field. Jeff Carollo has just bailed. I think he picked up a off-track coming through the penultimate sector of the lap. Meanwhile, Sam Hill in the number 95 BMW liveried BMW slides his way down the hill. You can tell it's a BMW default livery because it's got the default number boards on it as well. But will Hill find any more speed as he runs his way towards the line? It's a 31.14. That was the benchmark. Finds a 10th and a half, but does not move up a position.
Not quite enough tenths for him. It looks like it's a pretty open track right now. A lot of drivers are finishing up their runs. As we say that, we look a little bit further back to quite a few drivers still on track, but it's an interesting scientific phenomenon in these sessions. It seems like everybody goes out for their runs at the same time. Everybody comes back in at the same time. There do tend to be these open slots that you can go out in. There's still a bunch of cars out on track, but there's definitely open track right now if anybody wants clean track.
Apparently we renamed turn number 4, at least in the road racing configuration of the Red Bull Ring. I'm very confused by some of the track maps that now exist. One interesting talking point, as Gary Brown I think will be done for qualifying as he brings his car down to pit lane, maybe one more chance to be able to go on out. We ride out of turn number 1 with Luke Davis. Now we're going to go through what is technically turn number 2, but we're now braking for turn 3. You tell me where turn 2 was there, Joey.
Well, it's just like Road America. It's technically a turn. You are turning the wheel, but it's we shouldn't let people name or number their track corners. We need independent organizers. We need an independent committee.
You and me.
This is out of control.
You, me, and Lewis, because Lewis has got pretty similar opinions to the two of us, I hope.
Because if you look after turn 3, that back straight there, that's kind of curvaceous too. Is that turns 4 and 5 now? I have no idea.
Well, it doesn't seem like we're seeing many improvements. Jeff Carollo, another lap that he seems to relatively throw away to try and set up for the next one. Let's talk a little bit about, well, track conditions. 8 o'clock in the morning, virtual standard time, and right about as cold as you can get here on iRacing.
Yeah, it's a good Alpen spring right now. It's not, no April Fools here. It may be April 1st, but it's early in the morning. The sun's still rising. It's still warming up. And I'm very thankful, Arjun, that you put Fahrenheit up there so I didn't have to convert it.
I know. Hurts my soul. I'm going to have to blame Hugo Luis. Luke Davis across the line with 2 tenths off. He's running out of time. We'll have 2 more laps, but does he really have the tires underneath him? That will be the question. Carollo looks like he may be on for an improvement as well, but it's Alex Wright that's coming to the line, weaving one way and then the other. The universal sign that it wasn't the best lap.
Yeah, remember what I said about there being open track a little bit earlier? That is not the case anymore. Everybody has come out of the pits. Everybody's on their final runs right now. And we're not seeing very much improvement. That may be because the sun is rising. It's 8 a.m. right now. The fog is starting to lift, starting to get a little bit warmer. But it is also just very, very late in the session. And you can see from this helicopter shot, there are cars on every single part of this track, which is helpful if you have a teammate or somebody similarly paced to you that can help you down the long straights. But if you're getting held up by somebody slower than you, well, there's a lot of people who are slower than you on track right now. And
we saw all those ants scurrying around the track effectively. All that while there's still plenty of cars on pit lane. I mean, book a ticket. You're not going to find any space on track effectively. Buck Hamilton slides his way up to third, though, in the closing stages in the Ferrari. He's the first Ferrari and only Ferrari inside of the top 10.
I think that's the best qualifying we've ever seen from Buck Hamilton. I don't remember him ever being anywhere close to that high, but great lap from him. Great lap from Matt Dinsmore, who goes up into the top 12. See downtown Gary Brown here coming through the final 2 corners. Very difficult penultimate corner here. Got to carry as much speed as humanly possible through there without getting an off track, off to the left there. You've got to learn the track limits. You got to learn the track limits out of the final corner as well. You can abuse the curbs. You can get on the paint a little bit, but there is a very finite line, and if you go over that, you are getting an incident point. Your lap is getting disallowed, and in the race, you're first on track to getting those 13 incident points that get you a drive-through penalty.
Is it 13 incident points in this series?
Yep, 13 for a drive-through, 17 for disqualification.
I'm glad you brought it up because I did some physical comedy on Pesk this past weekend, Joey. I called it the Bank of Incidents. I brought this iRacing beanie out. I threw 17 quarters in there, each of them representing an incident point, and I told the story of how one by one you throw your incidents away until you get a drive-through penalty, and then you get 8 more incidents until you get a disqualification. Guess how many drive-through penalties we ended up having?
I mean, it's either 0 or 20, and I
it
don't
was
know
close
which one.
It was close to 10.
That is, I mean, I imagine we're going to see quite a few here as well, because I can speak from personal experience. I think we've been to the Red Bull Ring a couple times in PRL F3 when I raced in that series. I had a good race at one point, and I'm pretty sure I got disqualified at one point because I hit 17 incident points here in Spa.
Well, checkered flag out in qualifying. Matt Dinsmore in the Throttle Thursday Lamborghini up to 8th. Angelo Veloso in the Ferrari up to 9th position. And we will now get some final lap times across the board. That's a car ducking down onto pit lane. And that's Jay Steffi that sends his Ford around for a bit of a loop.
Poor old Jay stuffing it in the wall. The 43 coming to the line here. Final lap for Matt Scherf. Does improve, gets a couple of tenths, but that's not going to be enough for him. 22nd for a guy who's been on pole and won races in this series before. That's not going to make the Scherf family contingent in the chat very happy. He's got a lot of work to do.
That won't make Nicholas Caranjas happy as he comes to the line to set a 141 to close out qualifying. Will Nicholas Herrera have a bit of better luck, there? 130. Oh, in fact, time not counting, and I think that's basically going to be qualifying done and dusted, although will Chad Dick have anything to say about that? No, he will not. 2/10 off.
A couple of stragglers coming out here. Looks like nobody's improving. Jeff Carollo, 3 seconds off the pace. This has essentially been a practice session for Jeff Carollo. I think he's got more laps done than anybody within these 20 minutes, so he's gonna be pretty comfortable once turn 1 comes, and he's also remembering Sebring. He had a podium in the bag before he threw it away.
So, it's been an interesting start to this campaign. We've already talked about the fact that we may see drive-through penalties. I've mentioned the bank of incident points. What are we expecting here, Joey, as we get ready to rumble again with a fixed setup competition, all of these drivers adapting their driving to the car?
Turn 1 is always a pinch point, even with the best drivers in the world. We saw a couple of months ago with VCO Pro Sim Infinity, Max Benecki and somebody else who I don't remember, taking each other out. Turn 1, lap 1, always a pinch point. And then when you survive through there, you've suddenly found yourself in a pinch point again at turn 3. You're going to end up 3 wide there at some point, and you just got to make sure you're giving yourself as much room, you're giving your competitors as much room as possible, because surviving is the key here at the Red Bull Ring on lap 1.
How did you say that name there, Joey?
It's day by day it differs. Okay. Benecki.
Yeah, so the problem is that 10K Benecke has got that great ring to it, doesn't it? But you say it Benecke. 10K Benecke just does not roll off the tongue in the same way, does it? Let's take a look, though, at how they'll line up for the first of the 2 races here tonight. Gary Brown from downtown puts it up front. Scuderia Spazzino West, number 49 with a 129.460. A full 10th clear of Luke Davis in the Lunatic Racing BMW. Buck Hamilton in the best of the Ferraris alongside Alexander Abedi, while Evan Smogor in a very yellow Flying Lion Racing gold entry has Jeff Carollo in the McLaren alongside. Alex Wright rolls inside of Matt Dinsmore on row 4, while Angelo Veloso and Andre Bernati in the We Race Esports machines complete your top 10. Justin Delano and Greg Doucette start 11th and 12th positions, with Christopher Rhines and Eric Kulaga, who really showcased in that Ford at Imola back in 14th spot, Errol Orexoy and Steven Martinez behind them, with Dale Peterson lining up alongside Ryan Chandler, the best of the Chandlers, at least in qualifying. Jochen Bakker and then Jay Steffi bookend your top 20 with Frank Johnson, Matt Scherf, Felix Felice and Michael Kulager through the front 12 rows. It's Colin McKenzie and then Corey Davis that line up in 25th and 26th with Ryan Luna and Chad Dick behind them. Phil Amaro and Rodrigo Michelin. That's your top 30 with Trevor Houston, Jason Aaronsberg, David Morse, Samuel Hill, Nicholas Carangis, J.R. Gregory, Sean Mulholland, Chip Miller, and then Nicholas Herrera, the 39 cars that did indeed set qualifying times. Behind them, Sully Sard, who's got a lot of work to do through the field, and Mark Bray to round out the 41 cars getting ready to tango here in the Styrian Mountains.
Noticed only one Chandler in the field. Reagan Chandler not here today, so Ryan Chandler wins that by default. I'm so sad I could quit the broadcast right now, but I think I'll stay.
Well, it means that we're not going to have the glaucoma background, that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
That's a shame. Up here at altitude, the engine's starved for air, but will the drivers be starved for any sort of logic? We're about to find out. Downtown Gary Brown punches the throttle to get us underway for the doubleheader of GT3 action for the Precision Racing League. Great start from him, able to leapfrog those behind, and they single file themselves through turn number 1. It's only outside of the top 10 that they go side by side. No one really funneling themselves over that anti-cut curb on the exit that can be so treacherous in these GT3 machines. Having said that, Chad Dick finds his way onto that curb and is now out of the race, but up the hill into the braking zone of turn 3. No moves inside of your top 10.
That was very smart by, this is a huge off for Errol Orexoy at turn 3. I think he clipped the grass under braking. You see everybody flowing through. Everybody was quite separated on the start. Gary Brown was very smart to go very, very early. That stratified the front of the field out a little bit and made sure there wasn't any kind of pileup or any kind of argy-bargy on lap 1. And that's why, other than a few outliers, that has been a very, very clean lap 1 at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, overall, pretty impressed with that. Delano, Veloce, they squabble into the middle sector side by side. Not necessarily ideal. And they will indeed single file themselves out already, though, separated now by over 1 second from Alex Wright up the road. It's Gary Brown and Luke Davis, 1 and 2, running as they qualified. But Buck Hamilton jumped by Alexander Abadi in the Team Watson racing car to get up onto the final step of the podium as they sweep their way down the hill and to complete lap number 1.
Remember, Abadi was on the podium at Sebring a little bit earlier. This season has kind of been a learning experience for him. He's a pro-level driver in rallycross competition on iRacing, but he comes to the roadside trying to get his feet wet, trying to learn a little bit. He's learned very, very quick. He's on the podium for the moment for the 2nd time this season already.
Gary Brown now 9/10ths clear, because I don't think that Luke Davis got the best run out of turn number 1. Can be very tricky to get right in these weighty GT3 machines. Carry as much momentum over the crests and then carry that speed all the way into the braking zone up at turn 3. See if we can pick our way through then a bit of what happened at the start of this race as we take a look at the RaceSpotTV replay machine. So Chad Dick, tentative initially, and I think he loses it by himself.
I don't know. There was a Lamborghini behind him. I don't know if he got any help, but we'll see here through turn 1. No, Dick clips the sausage and loses it.
It's the... I did mention the that sausage curb. It just took until the very back of the field for it to really be a concern. Then it was up the hill for Errol Orexoy, who took a hellacious hit and then somehow does not careen back into the path of oncoming traffic.
I think he may have gotten a little bit of help there. We may have to take a closer look at that. Let's see, underbraking here into turn 3. That's Orexoy. Oh, absolutely got some help into the wall there. That was not his fault. He was Errol Orexoy. It wasn't his fault this week.
You stole that line from me. I was just about to say that. On board with Trevor Houston, because he had a bit of a view as well up the hill.
Let's see. A little bit of smoke. You can see Orexoy going off the road. Huge checkup. He's thinking, Houston, we have a problem, but he backs out of it. And that's very smart driving from Trevor Houston. Avoids all of it.
You saw Christopher Rhines. He was off the road as well. So one more replay is... There's the shunt for... Oh, and again, a self-spin.
Yeah, on cold tires, you do not want to be clipping that sausage curb, because that's exactly what's going to happen. The coefficients of friction changes. Gary Brown's gotten to slowdown and lost the lead.
Oh, they're so easy to come by, and so now downtown Gary Brown down through the field. and going to drop behind Evan Smogor, the championship leader, but still holds on to 6th. There's a long way to go, and fuel mileage may come into play in a race at a track like this.
You can get a slowdown at turn 1 here if you go too wide, so I think that's what happened to Gary Brown, but there are ways you can kind of cheat the system and serve a slowdown somewhat more effectively, but Gary Brown was not able to do that, waited a little bit too long, and ended up serving it at the worst possible place coming down the back straight. So it's not just losing the lead to Luke Davis. He's got 5 cars to pass now to get back up to where he wants to be. Hopefully we can catch a replay of what happened, because that's basically the only place where you can get a slowdown if you go way too wide off in turn 1.
Hypothetically, you can get it as well if you cut at turn number 3, which I think, given the way that Gary Brown pulled off, may potentially be likely as well, but I'm not entirely sure. See if we can grab a look in a few moments' time. This is into turn number 1. At least I think it is. That doesn't look...
No, he was fine there. So he must have cut turn 3 somehow, which, like you said, is possible, but that's kind of a lazy error to make if you do, is there's carnage at the back here.
Chet Miller, I think Erexoy wrecked again.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Not sure. We'll see if we can pick up some more looks at that. There's a little bit of a look from Jeff Carollo. He's on the outside of Buck Hamilton. It's not the ideal situation, but last of the late breakers down the hill, gravity working against them. Carollo through. Smogor thought about it as well.
A great move there from Jeff Carollo. That's a corner where your braking zones can... Your braking points, rather, can really differ from car to car and from driver to driver. You can brake sort of a lot later than you'd expect, but you also do have to brake a little bit earlier than you'd expect in the same way. It's a very tricky corner because it is downhill compared to the uphill turn 3. So Jeff Carollo far more comfortable in that McLaren, easy around the outside of Buck Hamilton, and Buck's just got to get back in the rhythm here. He's higher than he's ever been in this series, and he's got the championship leader behind him. No pressure.
So here's a look at what happened as we check out. Chet Miller getting a tag from behind. And Errol Erexoy did indeed get slid into the wall as a result of that one.
And there's one other driver behind as well. That's Herrera on the outside. And Erexoy just overcooks it, and there's a McLaren in front of him as well. It's just a lot of drivers with very different speeds kind of tripping over each other at the back of the field, with one driver trying to move his way forward after fighting in the top 10, and a couple of guys just trying to hang out and survive at the back.
Bit of a battle going on between Alex Wright and Justin Delano on the climb up into turn 3. Got Matt Dinsmore in front in what is effectively a train for 7th, because they are not totally out of touching distance, but struggling to hold on to the leading pack at the front, who are, albeit slightly, are breaking away at this point in time. On board down the hill, you've got a Lamborghini leading, a BMW riding behind, a Porsche, a Ferrari, a McLaren. Got a healthy dose of all the manufacturers here.
It's diversity here in the Fixed Series. They've done a good job with the BOP and the PRL specific BOP that's put in place at the start of each season. Some great even competition with the rise of the McLaren as well. I'm very happy to see that back in competitive contention. The Ferrari up front as well was not the car of choice for a long time, but it's proven that it's capable of winning races now. The Lamborghini doing pretty well up there in P7 as well. And what's critical here is Matt Dinsmore is sort of the cork in the bottle right now, but Alex Wright can't really afford to go for a move on him, because that's gonna lose him even more ground up to Gary Brown. They just need to hope that Gary Brown goes for a move on Smogor and forms a little bit more of a ladder back.
Dale Peterson has gotten past Eric Kulaga. The Ford's going to have its moments. It's also going to struggle a lot, and the moments are going to be few and far between. But that is the price that you pay sometimes for the slightly odd choice. Dale Peterson, I think, does indeed get the slowdown out of turn number 1. He's instantly passed by Kulaga, back up for 13th position. Meanwhile, though, another Ford fights. Jay Steffi up against Steven Martinez.
I think the last time a Ford GT was raced in GT competition in this version of it was probably when this track used to be called the A1 Ring. Yes. So it's not suited that well here.
Back in the day, this is a track that's had its fair share of controversy, I think it's fair to say.
It has.
Yeah, I think the Formula One fans know what we're talking about. There is, looking rearwards from Martinez, looked like Felix Felice got a big old wobble coming out of Schlossgold at turn 4 in the white and metallic blue Lamborghini.
It's very, very easy to do. Like I said, it's a very tricky braking zone. If you got a little bit too late, if your brake bias has moved a little bit too far back, you can get all sorts of out of shape, but he's managed to save it for the moment. Still surviving in the train, but it's very, very dicey stuff, and it is still cool track conditions, so your tires are definitely up to heat right now. It's been 10 minutes. You're in full racing temperature right now.
Oh, I don't understand that, Joey. What does 69 Fahrenheit mean in Celsius?
I don't know, but it's probably not nice.
You should have said it probably is nice.
It's not, because it's only nice in Fahrenheit.
I know, but I know.
April Fools.
Was there anything interesting in the world of sim racing for April Fools?
There's never anything interesting in April Fools. It's such an old concept.
Okay, you know what was interesting, Joey, is Delano and Dinsmore squabble out of turn 3. A bit of a hip check there as well. iRacing releasing a screenshot of rain. That was on April.
Oh, that was dicey. That was a little bit of a Pruitt fade there from Justin Delano. Everybody trying to work out 7th here as they kick Matt Dinsmore out of the train. That's finally resolved for the moment. But the thing about iRacing releasing that rain, it's pouring now backwards.
Oh my day! Oh my days! No. Please don't get any worse. Please don't get any worse.
Oh, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. They really didn't want us to talk about rain.
No, they did not. I mean, clearly it's already rained. Is what's happened here. They just
Sean Mulholland, J.R. Gregory, Carangis, David Morse, I think was the driver who came through there. That's a good 6 cars.
So there was either oil on the track or it was raining. One of the two.
I mean, I would really hope it is rain. I really want that to happen. I think a lot of people do. Just drop it randomly at one point without telling anybody.
People thought it was coming for PES. For some reason, they thought we were going to do that for a World Championship race. But no, they would not do that to my voice. Because, boy, even after those 2 races, my voice was done. Alexander Abadi, well, look how much he's closed up to the blue wheels of Luke Davis. And he's going to really pinch him now. And overly commits. Was there maybe some contact from behind with Jeff Carollo? I'll have to see from up above.
Break out the helicopter, because that was violent for Alex Abadi. I thought both of our leaders were getting into each other. As first and foremost, we're going to see the parking lot here out of turn 3. Just everybody, I think, clipping the curb, getting into each other. You'll see David Morse come onto the scene, I believe. It's just crazy stuff here. This is also that little bit of argy-bargy between Delano and Dinsmore. Was just barely clear there. Gets the nose of the Porsche over the nose of the Lamborghini and does get through. Poor old Matt Dinsmore got bullied there, and his teammate did as well.
Oh, okay, so that's what happened. And I think if we can, let's just stick on this shot for as long as we can.
That was Mulholland in the 39 who tried to get through, but he got forced onto the grass, and then there's some BMWs that come onto the scene. One of them loses it again, trying to save it. I mean, everybody did a good job of eventually getting it rolling again, but that was crazy stuff.
Took us a bit. Once we got there, we were good, is I think what you're trying to say. Now let's see if we can go back and take a look at what happened with Alexander Abadi from up above, because I think, yes, you're right. That is the only camera angle that's really going to tell us that Abadi maybe pinch himself, which is very, very possible. Or was there some contact that we did not see? It's up the hill where always the attention gets focused, and Carollo comes at a rate of knots, and it didn't look self-inflicted, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, there was definitely a little bit of help there from Carollo. Carollo might have a little bit of damage from that. That was a reasonably hard hit, but let's see here. Under braking, just a little bit of a boop, and that was so close to turning it. And you can see the checkup behind with just that one little incident. Buck Hamilton has nose damage now. Smoger has nose damage now. Everybody has damage now except for Luke Davis, who was the closest to getting spun there.
Are we allowed to talk about rain now, Joey?
Yes, I think everything has resided now.
Giving it a second. Giving it a second. We're good. Yeah, it was really interesting. Dirt, of course, was announced on April 1st. It was not a joke. It was real. iRacing has also announced, was it iRacing 2.0, which is the mobile iRacing version on April 1st in the past. But yeah. It was nice that we got to be able to see a little bit behind the scenes of what it's now looking like, because it looked pretty dang good.
That's iRacing took April 1st and said, you know what? April 1st is just another day. We're going to do normal things on this day. We're going to reveal some cool stuff instead of making jokes like every other year. And that's what April Fool's Day should be. It should just be another day. That's my take here.
I don't mind. See, the problem is April Fools used to be fun, and then everyone started doing it and doing it badly, so it stopped.
Exactly.
Being fun. So I just want it doesn't. You don't have to do everything every year. I was about to say you don't have to do it. Oh, as now we've got another victim of the curb on the exit of turn number 3.
Oh, Jeff Carollo. It's the second time this season he's been up in a podium spot. He's on his return season. He's had so much speed. And just one tiny little mistake. He was through the corner. He was fine. Actually, no, he wasn't. That was the lap before. But still, once we see the actual replay, he was perfectly fine. Just barely clips the curb. Just gets that little bit complacent, and it kills him.
Here we go. This should be the correct replay. And he was way too far out wide, to be fair. It just didn't look like he had the balance of the car underneath him.
No, it's just an easy mistake to make. It's whether it's the off tracks, whether it's clipping the sausage curbs here. You've got to be very well aware of the limits of this track, as Felix Feliz is off the limits of the track, and Aero Urexo's around as well. Remember what I said about finding the limits of the track? Yeah, it's pretty tough here.
Urexo is definitely testing the limits of the track right now, unfortunately. And I believe he was another victim of, well, yeah, the same thing happening over and over again. What happened to Felix Feliz, though? Because surely it was not self-inflicted, although he's riding by himself on that run into turn number 5. Pit stop's well and truly underway now, and just overcommits and a lazy spin around.
Far too late in the brakes to do, and it's an easy mistake to make because it's a very high-speed corner. You don't want to really use any brake there. You do have to use a little bit, and you just get that little bit too late in the brakes, use that little bit too much speed, and you're done. There's no saving it as Dale Peterson wins the race off of pit lane. Very close quarters there, but he does beat Jay Steffi out.
Didn't Dale Peterson used to race a McLaren?
No, Dave Peterson.
Dave Peterson. Okay, one letter difference.
More or less.
More or less. There's a McLaren coming up from behind. I just agree with you. It's nice to have the McLaren resurgence. Maybe we can get a new McLaren, though, soon, please, because if I have to run another IMSA Esports Championship with the old McLaren, the poor BOP people are going to have a very difficult job.
Yeah, I think before every season, the BOP people probably forget about the McLaren and the Ford, and they're like, oh, we forgot about this. Better put something in this thing.
So down the hill with 18 minutes to go, we've had Peterson, Kulaga, Bakker as the cars that have been out of incidents but have all come down onto the safety of pit lane. It's still Davis and Abadi that lead 1 and 2, and now with 1.5 seconds back to Buck Hamilton in the number 57 Ferrari as they climb their way up the hill in towards turn number 1. Abadi still hanging strong, but got to wonder if the damage that Buck Hamilton might now have is costing him, as now Martinez and Steffi come in on lap number 12.
I think Smoger's got a slowdown for good measure as well. Welcome to the party, our friend. So getting 5th place there behind Gary Brown. Join the club. Buck Hamilton might have damage, but he's been keeping it within the track limits, and that's what's really been helping him hang on to this podium here, because Brown and Smoger definitely have more race pace right now, but they keep making mistakes.
Well, let's ride with Evan Smoger. Track limits a hot button topic. Not through the penultimate corner here, but
yeah, that's about 5 miles wide.
Yeah.
You're in the Czech Republic at that point.
We just need to put some gravel there, you know? It's a novel concept.
Nah, that's not possible. We can't put gravel there. We got to put giant bits of red paint.
You know what I am interested in, though, is that he decided to serve it after turn 1, when surely it would have been less impactful to serve it out of the final corner.
Sometimes you're just not thinking that fast, which is...
Fair enough.
If you've gotten a lot of slowdowns, like I have, you definitely do start thinking that fast because you got a lot of experience getting that frustrating notification to the top of your screen. Eventually, you do realize how to play the game. But somebody like Evan Smoger is generally pretty clean. He's not really used to gaming the system.
On board with Alexander Abadi as Angelo Veloce now brings his Ferrari onto the safety of pit lane, followed in by Michael Kulaga as well. So 1 by 1. It's a 35-minute race. Let's not forget that the GT3 sprint drivers get a 40-minute race, although I would assume, Joey, that the weather conditions should be pretty similar.
Well, we did just hear from Sean Dickinson, the PRL Discord chat, that track conditions were very, very different from the official races when he joined the session, so he did put it in Celsius, so I can't convert.
So in the proper units, good.
We're currently on a track that's 27 degrees Celsius.
Ah, that's fine.
I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, so I can't tell you how that compares to 69.
It's fine. It's not as nice, but it's fine. Ryan Chandler, well, by default, he's the best of the Chandlers today, but he's up inside the top 10 right now. Yes, we have had a handful down on pit lane, but he's there on merit, and he's got the 5-string bass sitting behind him.
And he's got a fan on for good measure, which...
Hey, he's got one fan in that room.
He does, and that's the main... exactly, that's the main certification that spring is here, that summer is almost here. Across the East Coast, me in Pennsylvania, Ryan Chandler in North Carolina. It's only April 4th, and it's starting to feel like summer, and it was like 30 degrees 2 days ago. The weather makes no sense.
Yeah, California didn't get the memo, Joey, because it was like 40 degrees here over the last few days. It's not been fun. Delano and Smogor down to pit lane, so the championship leader comes on in. A pair of Porsches, in fact, slide their way down the pit lane. Probably only 2 laps or 3 laps away from getting to the end of the window as well, and so as Luke Davis continues to lead, how long can they go? Do they have pockets that they'll be able to find to run into some clean air?
Well, I think that's exactly why they're waiting for as long as possible. It's a very short track, and there's cars all over the place. With all the chaos we've had in these opening laps, there are no open spots on tracks. There's wrecked cars everywhere. There's people who are coming out of the pits everywhere. Your best bet if you're the leaders is to wait as long as humanly possible to come into the pits, just to make sure you're not getting held up in any of this, like Nicholas Carange's going around again, coming down the hill.
It's the second time we've seen a Lamborghini do that, by the way, although poor Jay Steffi taking avoiding action actually manifested in a slightly different way, but you just wonder if the Lamborghini, a bit more of a handful through that corner relative to the other GT3 machines. Less than a quarter of an hour to go. 14 minutes or so as we come towards the line to complete lap 14. To either of the BMWs exit stage right? No, they'll stay on track. And indeed, I do believe that both Gary Brown and Buck Hamilton will follow their footsteps.
There's no real reason to come in here because the only thing that can happen is hurting yourself. I'm looking back to see where Mr. Smoger has found himself. And Smoger, I got to update my timing here because he's not in traffic necessarily. He's not getting held up, but he is 8/10 behind Phil Amaro, and you can see just a little bit further ahead, now he's in traffic. He had clean track for a moment, and somebody did go off behind him.
Oh, and it's Felix Felice in the very distinctive. This is why it's helpful, Joey, when you make your cars nice and obvious to the commentators. Because I knew instantly, unfortunately I knew instantly it was Felix Felice, but I recognized him.
And it's very easy with SGE because they might have similar paint schemes, but they're all in different cars. One of them's in a Ferrari, one of them's in a Lamborghini, so that makes it even easier.
I don't even really know how you crash at that corner, if I can be completely honest.
Got hit by Delano.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what Felix Felice is expected to do in that situation. I'll be perfectly honest.
He's given as much room as possible. Understandably, Justin Delano on fresher... he's a faster driver. He's on a different strategy. He just come out of the pits. Delano, or Felice rather. But yeah,
justification to turf someone off the... I know what you're trying to say, Joey, to be clear, but... Yeah, poor form is, I think, the best way to put it. I think we're getting our leaders down into pit lane indeed. Davis, Abadi, Hamilton, and Brown following them on in. It's going to be one choo-choo train. Lap 15 seems to be the mark.
We always call this the hard end of the fuel tank, because this means that nobody can go any further right now. I mean, you might be able to extend it one more lap if you are very, very conservative, but there's no way you're going one more lap than this. There's no Ryan Pucktel in this race, but everybody comes down, and now we see, has Abadi been able to save fuel in second? Was he pushing, or was he hanging back a little bit just to save in traffic behind Luke Davis? Clock's ticking, and nope, identical in the pits. Abadi stays second.
But look how close he was. Gary Brown was able to save almost 2 full seconds in his pit stop time and is going to emerge as part of the 3-car tandem that now spits itself back out onto track. Buck Hamilton almost 2 full seconds behind, and now is it 3 cars that fight with 12 minutes to go.
Gary Brown has he underfueled the car, or has he just been better on fuel saving than everybody? That's my question. Justin Delano was in the box for 11.2 seconds. Dale Peterson, 11.6. Jeff Carollo, 10.9. So Gary Brown's not completely alone with having a shorter stop, but I do wonder, has he just saved a ton of fuel or has he underfueled this? This is always the question every week.
I feel like he's probably going to be okay, especially knowing that he can save a bit of fuel now and just ride for third potentially for a few laps. We'll see how it all plays out. As always, great to get a look on board with a couple of our drivers in this GT3 Fix Series, and we'll do the same in the GT3 Sprint Series that comes up just in about 20-odd minutes' time. Of course, still here at the Red Bull Ring. It's next week when things will differ. These drivers head their way on over to Watkins Glen, while the GT3 Sprint drivers will make their way over to the Circuit Jerez.
I believe it's actually Barber next week, because it's changed like 3 times.
I went to the website today, and it said Watkins Glen, Joey. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's really confusing, because they're talking in the Discord server that the Fixed Series will still go to Watkins Glen. That's still correct. But the Sprint Series was supposed to go to VIR, but then they changed it, and now they're going to Barber.
Okay, it was going to Jerez at one point, though, right?
I think we're going to Jerez later in the season. I think that's still on.
I'm pretty sure the schedule got me all very, very confused. No, the schedule says April 11th, Circuit Jerez.
Wow, so they're confusing me as well.
Yeah,
why is everybody talking about Barber?
Barber's in round 7. That's like the first round in May.
But I thought Jerez was round 7.
No, Jerez was definitely not round 7 because it's not part of the Fix Series at all. Wait, no, it is. Oh, I am so confused now.
We are going insane in Spain.
We are in Spain without
the S.
And without the A. Because we're spinning in pain.
We are.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure we can get someone to come and clarify that one up for us. Gary Brown very much towed up to Alexander Abadi, and I would not be shocked if he's going to try and work his way on forward. Jay Steffi, well, 23rd and 24th. He's got Ryan Luna on his outside in the Audi as they tumble down the hill.
This has been a decent race here for Ryan Luna. Had a very strugglesome past couple of seasons trying to learn road course racing. But he's definitely found his feet. He's finishing races a lot more consistently. He used to be the guy who would always look back and see, oh, there's the banana cream Lamborghini of Ryan Luna spinning. But in this Audi, he's been very comfortable. He's got some decent results on the board. And right now, a top 20 in a 40-plus car field, or a top 24 in a 40-plus car field, rather. That'll be a solid result for a guy who is far less experienced on the road courses than a lot of these other drivers.
I find it interesting that he seems to be more comfortable in the Audi. It's a car that both in the real and virtual world has a reputation for not being the friendliest to the amateur level drivers that make up the bulk of the GT3 field, the drivers that fund a lot of the teams to go racing. It's been great if you get a Kelvin van der Linde around behind the wheel. Christopher Mies at Bathurst, has the unofficial lap record of a 1:59. But it's a pendulum that can very much break on you quickly, but once you find the right car, it's so important that you continue to just find more and more time. While they're close at the front of the field, they're not just close at the front of the field. You can even go back to the likes of 12th position, where you've got Greg Doucette leading from Ryan Chandler. Jeff Carollo, of course, trying to recover his way back forward. Steven Martinez in the queue as well.
Just noticed there, with Luke Davis, your race leader, coming through turn 7 and 8 there. The past couple of laps, he's been extending the track limits at turn 8. He's been getting off tracks basically guaranteed. We can't see the amount of off tracks drivers have here in the booth, but you can tell when something's an off track, and Davis has been building him up, and you saw him that last time around get more conservative. He backed off, and that didn't help him. He got a bad exit, let Abadi close it up, and Abadi's going to be closer than he ever has if he can get through turn 1 clean here.
Sim racers have proven not just that you can go side by side through Copse corner, disproving Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, but we've also proven that you can go side by side out of turn 3 safely. Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen getting disproved here on the sim. If you are going to see a passing opportunity, let's be real, Joey, the best opportunity is either into turn 3 or out of it on the plunge down to turn 4.
Those are your two best opportunities. You can do it at turn 1 if you get very, very aggressive, but it's an obtuse angle, and that is not conducive to overtaking. As Ryan Chandler does take a peek to the inside to turn 3, it's gonna hamper rather his momentum here down the back straight. Though he got a little bit, I think, too eager, tried to go for the move, and it killed his run out there. He's gonna have to wait another lap to give it another shot.
I'm insulted, Joey. You called me obtuse.
Obtuse, of course. And I'm acute.
I know, it's a fantastic word. Going back to high school geometry there. When was the last time you used a protractor?
Probably 11th grade, if anything.
That's not that long ago.
I don't want to use a protractor.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of education, I'm thinking, I don't even know when the last time I used one. Have you, imaginary numbers was something that I always was scared of. No.
Don't even mention them. They're imaginary. Why are we learning them?
They're the computer programs that deal with imaginary numbers. Programming languages that deal with imaginary numbers. Gary Brown thought about a look. Alexander Abedi on the curb. And, well, he knows all about dealing with bumps and bangs, but he doesn't want to deal with that.
These are not imaginary numbers he's losing. He is plummeting down the order, and he's not even going to be able to continue, I don't think. That was a huge hit, and he's got to wait for the whole field to go by. That's a Beatty done here, but let's see what happened through turn 1 here. Again, the sausage curves. He goes Tony Hawk Ollie style, and then I think he actually got some help there from Gary Brown. We'll see here. We're right on board with Gary Brown. That'll be the most helpful thing here. Through turn 1, Abedy's just a little bit wide.
Yeah, I think
Gary
you're
Brown
right.
did help him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it wasn't intentional by any means. We'll look from up above and slow it down. You just see the car breaking traction initially, and then it is the touch from Brown that really seals the deal. Abedi not the only one to take a tow back to pit lane on that lap, though. J.R. Gregory's terrible day, or a terrible race rather, comes to an end. In 37th position, he's back on pit lane, also taking a tow. It's 1 second, though, at the front as we dive down through the penultimate corner to take about 4 minutes and 30 seconds left to go. I would assume it would therefore mean we've got 3 laps left to run.
I don't have my protractor with me to tell me if that's correct, but I think it is. And
Protractor?
Now that Abedi has abated, Gary Brown has nobody ahead of him. We know he's the fastest driver in the field. He put it on pole. He would have won this race if he didn't get that slowdown, or he would have been leading this race, rather, if he didn't get this slowdown. And now he's just got to prove to himself that he does still have that speed. He does still have the pace he had in qualifying. He's got to find a way to pass Luke Davis.
Trying to figure out how a protractor helps you do that calculation.
I mean, they said it would help with everything, and it never did.
Yeah, good. That's a nice one. I like that. I was going to say break out the abacus.
Maybe.
Have you ever used an abacus, Joey?
I mean, probably when I was like 5 years old and 6 years old in kindergarten, but I mean, I'm happy to go back to like 6th century BC Middle East and then live my abacus life, but no.
There are people that manage to make it work, and all kudos to them. I'm not one of those people. Gary Brown, we ride on board with him. I need a calculator. I need it handed to me is what I'm trying to say. Within half a second of your race leader, I don't think this is done and dusted. Brown, fastest in practice, pole position in qualifying, and now fighting his way back forward after 1 slowdown penalty. So I'm going to have to fight his way back to the front.
And you might think this would be an easy move for Gary Brown if he can put the pressure on Luke Davis, but it's never an easy move at this stage of the race, and it's also going to be very, very uneasy for Luke Davis. Off the final corner, Gary Brown's going to get a great run here. Does Davis elect to block the inside? Yes, he does. It's going to hinder his run down the straight after turn 1. It's going to help Brown here. But also, if Davis does do exactly what Abedi did, Browns are able to go around the outside.
And I think the worst thing that Luke Davis could really do there was allow Gary Brown enough space to really now compromise the exit even worse for that BMW. It will still be Brown on the outside, and maybe Davis will be a little bit more physical this time into the braking zone, but Brown just that little bit braver on the brakes. And with a bit more momentum and some contact as they come off the corner as well, it's Gary Brown that now leads.
There was a little bit of latency there, I think. I don't think there was actually contact between Brown and Davis, and Davis did definitely swerve to the right there just to make sure he didn't get into Gary Brown, but that was very, very tentative from Davis, both into turn 1 and into turn 3. Definitely could have braked much later, but he was feeling the pressure from Gary Brown. I think he didn't want to lock the rear brakes and spin. He essentially just let him by, and now he's just hoping that Gary makes a mistake with that clean track ahead of him.
So they'll have 1 to go this time by, I do believe. And if you want to know how quick Gary Brown is, he punched in the fastest lap of the race last time by. It was a 1:29.575. We've been averaging about 1 minute 30s, though, up and down through the field. And so as the seconds tick away on the clock, Martinez and Carollo, they fight their way over 13th and 14th positions. Your leader comes across the line to take the white flag.
Very clumsy last two corners there for Davis. Not close at all here. He's going to have to figure out how to be later on the brakes into turn one. Hope there's a mistake from Gary Brown. Gary clips the curb. Davis does as well. But Gary Brown's in control right now. If he gets a clean rest of this lap, he's in a very good shape here. You see the 54 of Frank Johnson get into a little bit of trouble out back. I think he just clips the curb, gets on the seam, and that just spins the car around. He's locked in that rut. Nothing he can really do there other than don't hit that part of the curb in the first place.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. Once he was in that spot, no saving it. Gary Brown was clear of Luke Davis. No real charge in this fight down the hill. Half a lap left to go, and Gary Brown is half a lap away from the perfect race event.
This will be his second win in the PRL, I believe, if I have my numbers correct. He did get one win back in the Fixed Series a couple of seasons ago, but back in victory lane. Definitely not the easiest of affairs. He definitely would have hoped that there was a little bit less contact, but not much of it was his fault, and he's easily been the fastest of anybody today.
39 started, 33 will finish, and the one that finishes at the front after being fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying, punching in the fastest lap of the race, and taking the checkered flag. Gary Brown grabs the victory for the second time in his PRL GT3 Fixed career. He's a full second clear of Luke Davis. It's a third winner in as many races. What a roller coaster of a season it's shaping up to be. Buck Hamilton clear of Justin Delano in front of Evan Smogor to complete the top five. An electric race and the first of two on the docket for RaceSpotTV.
It's going to get even more crazy in the sprint race, but Evan Smogor, great race from him again. Hasn't had that race-winning pace that he had at Sebring in the last 2 weeks, but what he's done, he's been extremely consistent. Top five last week, top five this week. That is how you win a championship, by, even in your bad weeks, still finishing in the top five.
Still got about half a lap to go before we can get you your race results. Not sure how much there will be for race control to take a look at after that. One or two things that I'm sure that we scrolled our way on through. Ultimately, Alexander Abadi going to be one of the most frustrated people you can find. Again, no blame on the part of Gary Brown for the bit of contact that saw that BMW out, but the Team Watson racing car definitely has shown speed to start off the season.
It's going to be one to watch. There's so many drivers that could win this championship. That's why this is one of the most exciting PRL championships of the season here. Gary Brown finally gets a win, has been inconsistent in the first 2 weeks, though he should be a championship contender. It's all about keeping consistent, though, to keep with Evan Smogor. The likes of Gary Brown and Eric Kalaga and Abadi and Luke Davis are all going to have to keep up that consistency that they haven't had.
Let's grab a look at those race results, as it's three different marks on the podium. It's Gary Brown in the Scuderia Spezzino West, number 49, that grabs the victory in front of Luke Davis, while Buck Hamilton secures the podium. That's how they qualified. It's not how they ran for most of the race. Justin Delano in fourth, with another Porsche behind in the form of Evan Smogor. Alex Wright, Angelo Veloz, Andre Benatti, Dale Peterson, and Eric Kulaga make up the rest of the top 10. Delano +7, Peterson +8. Behind them, Greg Doucette in the Throttle Thursdays Lamborghini across the line in 11th. Then in front of Ryan Chandler, who had a great run up to 12th position, while Jeff Corolla recovers in the McLaren back to 13th. Stephen Martinez, Corey Davis, Colin McKenzie, Jochen Bacher, Matt Scherf, Michael Kulaga, and Matt Dinsmore. That's the rest of your top 20, while 21st sees Jay Steffi in one of our Fords, Ryan Luna, Jason Arensberg, Frank Johnson, Trevor Houston, Chad Dick Filomaro, Christopher Rhines, David Morse, Samuel Hill. That's your top 30, with just two more cars left on the lead lap, Sean Mulholland and then Nicholas Herrera, while Nicholas Carangis, the only car one lap down. Clear of those who did not make it to the end, Alexander Abadi, Chet Miller, Rodrigo Michelin, JR Gregory, Errol Arexoy, Felix Felice, Sully Saad, and Mark Bray. That's a look top to bottom at your race results, and let's head over to Victory Lane, where Joey Tebben is standing by with downtown Gary Brown.
Indeed I am. Downtown Gary Brown is as far uptown as you can get, but there were a lot of ups and downs in that race, Gary. It seemed like it was an emotional roller coaster out there. Talk us through the entirety of it, from first to fifth, back to first.
Yeah, that was disappointing to get that slowdown turn, well, the last turn. been my Achilles heel on this track for sure. So I was so trying hard not to do that, and then ended up doing it like on the second lap of the race. And yeah, it put me back to 6th place, I think, and then just tried to keep my head down and figure maybe someone else would get one. And I think somebody did. I got one place back, and then I got a place back in the pit. And then just some great racing there at the end. That was a lot of fun. I think I made contact with Alexander, but it was certainly unintentional. He got a little squirrely coming out of turn 1. So
next week we do travel to Jerez. That's been confirmed. There's a little bit of a... Oh, wait, no, we go to Watkins Glen next week. I'm even getting myself confused. But Watkins Glen coming up next week. Reasonably high speed, reasonably similar to the Red Bull Ring in that effect. How do you think the Porsche is going to fare there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great track. I love that track. And I've had, hit or miss luck there. I think I was in another one and I was leading and then spun in the boot like on the second to last lap. So I'm just going to try to avoid all that and try to keep this going. I had a couple of bad starts to the season with my first 2 races, and it's nice to have a win now, and hopefully I can keep this trend going.
Well, congrats on the win, Mr. Downtown Gary Brown, and we will see you in New York next week.
Yeah, thanks guys. Have a great one.
We will indeed. Gary Brown, your victor tonight, and 2nd place again this season. Coming home just short, just like Sebring, unfortunately. Luke Davis, what more did you need to hold back Gary Brown there?
I needed a lap 22 to just not be the worst lap of the race.
Yeah.
I hold him off.
So it looks like things were pretty good for you in terms of off tracks. I thought you accumulated a couple over at turn 8, but we see the results now. Only 5 incident points. How tough was that, staying within the limits here over 35 minutes?
Honestly, I thought it was easier. I think what a lot of people do is they just follow the car in front and then don't realize that, they have a different braking point or something like that. So, they end up going wide. I knew I had something to play with there at the end, and that's why my incident points kind of went up from, I believe, 2 in the last 10 minutes to another 3 toward the end. So
that's always the way I used to think about it in the PRL. I've got incident points to play with at the end of the race.
Yeah,
I
exactly,
might as well use them.
Exactly.
But congrats on P2 again, Luke. 2 podiums in 3 races, pretty good record, and we'll see you at Watkins Glen next week to keep up the streak.
Yeah, can't wait, Gary. I'm coming for you, man.
Oh, I should have dragged Gary Brown back up in here to hear that action. But Luke Davis, 2nd place here at the Red Bull Ring. Arjuna, no 3rd place Buck Hamilton, unfortunately. Hopefully he shows up in a couple of minutes' time, but that's 2 very, very happy drivers.
It is, and it was great to be able to talk to them. Fighting words as well, of course, out of Luke Davis. It is Watkins Glen up next to confirm amidst all of the confusion. It's a fast, it's a flowing, it's a track that the GT3 cars actually work quite well at, and it's another track where track limits are a suggestion, although incident points are not such a consideration.
Are you ready for me to say something big, Arjuna, here? This is the best track in the world, so of course it's good for GT3 competition.
How do I get you out of the booth?
Competition. Watkins Glen is the best road course in the world. I will stand by that, and nobody will disagree with me.
It's okay. You can be very, very wrong. You're very entitled to that opinion.
The pride of the Finger Lakes.
We'll just swiftly move on from that one because, well, with one race done, still one left to go. The GT3 fixed drivers had their shine here on RaceSpotTV. Now it's the turn of the GT3 sprint drivers, and what an exciting championship run they've had to kick off their season. Of course, they also went first to Sebring and then over to Imola, 2 very different tracks. It's been equally chaotic with fields up to 50 plus GT3 machines, but it's the tie whisperer Abner Acosta that currently holds the championship lead, although he has not grabbed a race victory so far this season. Still focused then fully at the incident limits and the track limits here over at the Red Bull Ring. We believe it's a trip over to Jerez up next for these drivers before Belle Isle, the Nürburgring Nordschleife, Jerez, Road America, Zandvoort and Hockenheimring. But ultimately, whether we go to Barbara next, whether we go to Jerez next, we know that this is going to be a lot of fun.
It will be Jerez next. Arjuna has found the receipts on the PRL forum, and we do have it correct. It's not correct on the graphic because we're not going to Jerez twice, but 7th round, that will be Barber. Confusingly, because we're going to Jerez that week in the fixed series.
Yep.
But Jerez next week in the fixed series, Barber in the 7th week in the sprint series. The GT3 Sprint Series driver standings, like you said, Arjuna, Abner Acosta leading the championship. That's because, unfortunately, there was a little bit of controversy over the past week. Hernan Gonzalez, who won the race at Imola, in quotation marks, last week, did not actually win the race at Imola. He was not in the car. They recruited a pro esports driver to drive the car for him. Hernan has since been disqualified from the race and removed from the rest of the season, so he won't be with us for the rest of the season. Andrew Waring won that race technically, even though he finished second, and all the standings are correct now.
I didn't realize we were going to talk about that, but yes, major drama, and yeah, not what you want to see, but it's glad that, of course, that PRL were able to work together with the team over at iRacing to make that investigation happen, and now the results have been updated to reflect all of that. That's the Drivers' Championship, of course. No Pro-Am for this season. That's a bit of a change over the previous seasons that we've had here in the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. Let's have a look at the Team Championships, because SimCity Racing, after being hammer and tongs last season, well, they're at it again, but they're clear of CRT Purple by 10 points, and then a further 19 back to the Precision Racing Esports.
That's going to be quite the battle here. CRT, even with some controversy still, they have a whole stable of drivers who are still with us here, and they've been very, very quick in their first season in the PRL. Precision Racing Esports with defending champion Elliott White and Abner Acosta are very, very difficult to beat. And SimCity Racing, of course, Dickinson and Crisp, the dynamic duo, they are the epitome of consistency. We can actually separate their cars on track right now. That's going to be tough to beat over the course of the season.
Now, has Sean Dickinson updated his car so it's not as boring?
I think it is still, you would call it boring. I don't find it boring, but it's good that it's differentiable now.
I mean, yes, that's because Martin Crisp went to the effort of differentiating his car for us. We should be clear to give Martin the credit for resolving the situation of two clueless commentators who need all the help they can get. Once again, it's open qualifying in the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. Boris Ovando currently sits on top, and he's got a pretty decent margin over Andres Espinosa. It's BMW, Ferrari, Audi, the top three, and it's 1/10,000th of a second. That splits Elliott White from Gonzalo Cortez for third and fourth positions, if you were curious.
And Boris Ovando is doing exactly what he should be doing. When I mentioned Precision Racing Esports, I mentioned Elliott White and Abner Acosta, and I neglected to mention Boris Ovando, who's the third Precision Racing Esports driver, and of course, because I did that, he's going to be the fastest of the three right now.
The disrespect, Joey. He just
exactly.
wants you to know.
Proving me wrong.
Yeah.
And he's got to recover here, because last season when we went to the Red Bull Ring, he was in contention for the win. Unfortunately, had a very, very clumsy error, spun coming into the pits, and lost that win. So this is redemption day for Boris.
You know who else needs to redeem himself right now, in my opinion?
Me?
You, for one, especially for that Watkins Glen take. I mean, my word. But also this man. Where's the background? I'm disappointed.
Where's the schnitzel?
I'm disappointed.
He sent me a photo of the schnitzel he prepared, and it's not. I'm dragging it up right now. Ted Lowendick, unmute yourself. Where's the schnitzel?
It's in my stomach.
You ate it already? We can't see it.
Oh yeah, it was dinner.
Okay.
No schnitzel, no background. I mean, the disrespect, Ted.
Yeah, well, it was either you get the schnitzel or you get a background, and I settled for dinner. So sorry about that one. But it's on my Instagram if you want to see it.
It is. I'm gonna send that PNG to Arjuna right now. We're gonna try and get it on the broadcast. Are you on a fast lap right now?
No, I am struggling. This is gonna be a bad day. So
thank God. So we can keep talking to you for the rest of this lap. I'm gonna get that PNG. This is the benefit of giving us your Zoom. We will force you to do things for our own amusement. I told Ted Lowendick to prepare an Austrian schnitzel to be very relevant this week, and he did. He listened.
I do have a question for you, Ted, by the way. Is that some new hardware in the background?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I see some VRS logos on some boxes, I'm pretty sure.
So it's not new. I've been using it for a bit, but yeah, it is the VRS DD. It's not the wheel.
Okay.
They just came out with that, but no, it's not the wheel.
I've just got to give you your credit, by the way. Joey gets his additional airtime as per his RaceSpot contract because of you putting his face on the cars.
Yeah, so I'm getting paid extra. And also, I just downloaded that PNG of that schnitzel you prepared. That was 20 megabytes. Did you take that thing on a film camera?
It was on my phone. Sorry.
It will turn it off of 4K. You're going to use up all your storage.
Well, I'd usually just delete the photos anyway. So.
All right, we'll let you get to qualifying legitimately here. We'll get you up from 33rd, and we'll talk to you during the race.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
You said get him up from 33rd, but he already, I think, sounded pretty defeated, and I don't know if he's necessarily expecting to get much higher than 33rd. Francis Romero up to 7th, Juan Malagon up to 12th positions with 6.5 odd minutes left to go. Boris Ovando is just rolling out of pit lane after coming down to get a fresh tank of fuel. As the name implies, GT3 Fixed is a fixed setup series, GT3 Sprint is an open setup series, Joey, and so that means these drivers will have qualifying specific setups. They'll also really be able to dial out rear wing if they want to trim out as much downforce as they want to make their car a rocket ship in a straight line. They can, they'll just be a parachute through the corners.
Yeah, in this thinner alpine air, straight line speed is very, very important. Francis Romero right now is getting a little bit of a draft from one of the Race Factory Lamborghinis, which will be very, very helpful on the straights, will not be helpful right now through the middle sector. He's going to be getting a ton of dirty air out of the back of that Lamborghini, and he's having to check up for good measure because the 14th place Lamborghini of Nanai Tavares is a little bit slower right now, so it's not going to be a great lap time for Francis Castillo, I don't think, and there's no real way to back out of this traffic right now because he's got 2 other cars behind him.
RaceSpot.tv/timing if you want to follow along with your favorite drivers in a 50-car field. Yes, I just had to confirm. 47 have set times. And Andre Espinosa down onto pit lane. That's Gonzalo Cortez. And another Audi that you're not going to miss by the colors. That was a close call with, I think, Ryan O'Connor, who scrambles his way back out onto track. Will there be any improvement for that number 11 machine? Out of California, no, it's about 0.6 off his previous best.
It's a little bit, it's Apple Computer-esque.
Apple Computer-esque?
That's what it's giving. Oh, it's giving wall now.
It is Scott Kimbrough, he's up to 7th. Elliott White, I think, maybe done for qualifying because he seems to have gotten out of the car. Is he happy with 3rd position? Does he think he's gotten the most out of qualifying?
I don't think he would be happy with 3rd necessarily, and yep, I was right. He's coming back out, just taking a little bit of a break, going out for one more run. He knows he's better than 3rd place right now. His teammate's on pole at the moment. There's definitely 3 more tenths in that thing. He just needs to figure out how to find a clean gap on track, which has been exceptionally difficult with 10 more cars than in the fixed series.
You see, Joey, I'm so nice to you. I go to such great lengths to deliver for you.
Yes, there it is. And you better enjoy that. That was taken on a $10,000 red movie camera, apparently. 20 megabytes.
I want to put Schnitzel up on screen, but I'm scared that I'm going to spell it wrong.
I mean, you better put the N in there.
Okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Oh, we got it. Oh.
You're a good Austrian boy.
Is Ted Austrian, by the way?
I think Lowendick comes from the German, so it's pretty close.
Okay,
it borders it. It's on the border.
So the Schnitzel is something Mr. Lowendick is familiar with.
Potentially. I mean,
potentially.
Probably not, because you saw in that photo, he put the Schnitzel over some Mexican rice, so we're crossing cultures there.
Yeah, that did seem very college-y, where, oh, let's get Mexican rice on everything.
I have to imagine that Ted Lowendick, back when he was at Ohio Northern University, when he was both on the golf team, not making a lot of money.
He was on the golf team?
Yes, he was.
Not bad. I may or may not have a plan to go and play at the Brickyard Crossing this year.
Call Ted? Just down the road?
I've already got a full T slot. We're ready. It's going to be me and the boys from i5G. We've even got a designated driver so we can enjoy ourselves. You know who our designated driver is?
Doug Bowles.
That would be amazing.
All the way to the top.
I've actually met Doug Bowles, although in passing. But yeah, that would be great. No, Brandon Trano.
I mean, that's as good as you can ask.
It's not
behind
bad.
A golf cart.
It's not, well, golf cart. I don't know if we're going to trust him with a golf cart. Maybe we'll trust him with his own car. We'll start there.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll start there. Look, half the fun of playing golf is going and bombing around the course in a golf cart.
And speaking of bombing around the course, Elliott White, I think, just bailed on that qualifying run. He just said, you know what? I'm not riding in the train with my teammates anymore. I am just turning hard right here and slamming into the Armco. That is officially his qualifying run over now.
That was a bit of a moment there. So Ovando still works through the middle sector on another one of his laps. He's got 3 tenths over the rest of the field as well, Joey. That might as well be a mile.
And Andres Espinosa behind him is sort of surprising. He's won races in the Fix Series before, moved up to the Sprint Series this season, but that's an incredible qualifying lap for Andres Espinosa in that Ferrari. Half the I rating of Boris Ovando. Boris Ovando has 6,000. Andres Espinosa has 3,000. And look at them, first and second.
It just goes to show that iRacing isn't the be-all and the end-all. It's not a bad indication, yeah, but again, don't get too hung up on it. Sean Dickinson, well, he got hooked up on some gravel, and I tell you what, good reactions to hold that one relatively in control until it was not in control.
That was a similar move to Elliott White. That was just a bail, and then we'll see exactly what Elliott White did here, just riding in a train with his teammates.
Oh, he just bails.
You know what? I'm done with qualifying. I'm done.
Literally done, it turned out as well.
Yeah.
So, White done. Who else is done? Dickinson done as well. Desjardins, Williams, Spears. So there are a handful who have bailed. Andrew Sharp, Jared Farrell, and Adam Brockway all will not be setting times in qualifying. Likely, I would assume, for some sort of infringement earlier in the previous round of the championship. 20-odd seconds left to go. The drivers coming across the line will be allowed to finish the lap that they're on.
Andrew Waring, our defending winner, technically. At the dying seconds, P2.
Is anyone else going to find some time? Checkered flag moments away from being thrown out there as one of the BMW slows itself down. Boris Ovando finds his way into the final corner and down onto pit lane.
I mean, good on him to get a little bit of extra pit practice after what happened last season, so might as well. Andres Espinosa did cross the line in time, I think, so if he wants to go around for a whole lap here, he might be able to.
Scott Kimbrough, another one that's come back down on towards pit lane in his Empire Racing number 17. Will Francis Romero be able to improve a spot inside of the top 10 right now? He's into the penultimate couple of corners.
The many, many purple entries from the Seabow Racing team here. Out of the final corner, quite a bit of wheel there, all sorts of out of shape. That's not going to bode for very much time there. And no, it doesn't. Exactly the same, or worse actually, stays P10 for Francis Castillo Romero, right ahead of his GT4 teammate, formerly Abner Acosta.
Michael Terrafino. He's added something to the front of that car, hasn't he, since the last time I really took a close look at it?
He has. I don't know who it is, though. It's given him a ton of extra speed, because look at this.
No.
P8 for Michael Terrafino.
Oh, I thought you said even more speed. I was saying, no, there's not going to be an improvement.
Is that a horseshoe?
I honestly cannot tell you. It's not a horseshoe, it's someone. Is it James May?
It could be. But, I mean, whoever it is helping him, because Michael Terrafino's first two rounds were extremely disappointing for him, and he's back on Michael Terrafino time now, P8.
Sani Darkis with a 1:34.13. He'll line up 1.1 seconds off the pace, down in 42nd position. And it goes to show you just how strong the field is when 50 cars are split by just over, a full second. Let's not forget that we do have some beautiful faces. Well, not Joey's and mine, unfortunately, but some of the drivers who are getting ready to go. Kwok-Nin stepped out of virtual reality bang in the middle of the picture. Ryan O'Connor is just getting himself psyched. And I don't know what Nick McLaughlin's doing, but he's stretching.
Looks like he's doing the YMCA up there in the top left.
Oh, that looks like he's cracking something now. Oh, no, he's settled down. You got Arnaud Genet on the right side. Caleb Lehman puts on the googly eyes, and then Caven Norris grabs a swig of water as qualifying comes to a close, Joey.
I mean, if I know anything about Caven, I have a feeling that might be some kind of protein shake or some kind of gamer fuel. I feel like he's getting himself hyped up, but nothing's hyping me up more than the Saturn V Lego behind Caleb Lehman.
You know I love myself a little bit of Lego. That's the one kit that I'm going to regret never being able to buy because it is now almost impossible to find.
Yeah.
And yes, I have the Lego Discovery, Joey, but I do not, and I will never now have the Lego Saturn. I'm very sad.
I have the Saturn V.
Oh, you just made me even sadder. Well, we're ready to go racing here for the second part of the double header of GT3 action here in the Styrian Mountains. It's Boris Ovando that will look to put the ghosts of days past behind him in the Precision Racing Esports 122, a 129.296, 3/10 clear of Andrew Waring, technically the previous race winner. Andres Espinosa inside of Elliott White on row 2 with Gonzalo Cortez and Martin Chris lining up in 5th and 6th. Martin Chris, of course, the entry that's a lot easier to distinguish for Sim City Racing. It's Frankie Arvello and Michael Terrafino in 7th and 8th with Scott Kimbrough and Francis Romero behind them to complete your top 10. The championship leader and the tie whisperer Abner Acosta rolls inside of Sean Dickinson on row 6, with Arnaud Genet and David Mendonca behind. Juan Malagon, very purple in his Porsche, has a orange Porsche of Ryan Puctel for company on row 8. Nani Tavares and Peter Nodwell, 17 and 18. Inside of row number 10 is Devin Horvath. He's got Dave Menino on his right, Ryan O'Connor and Lucas Souza, 21st and 22nd, with Michael Pabiano and Beckham Jasir no longer undefeated in the PRL and with plenty of work to do from back in 24. Fernando Yaquez and Joey Haynes share row 13, with Blake Ziti firing off inside of Marc-Andre Desjardins. It's Alec Bergstrom and then Nick McLaughlin in the Joey Tebben fan club car that rounds out the top 30. J.R. Williams, Joshua Spears in row number 16. Kevin Norris and Kwok Nin in 33rd and 34th, with Miguel Angel Fonseca and Tommy Brasone 35th and 36th. Ted Lowendick 1 second back in 37th, with Caleb Lehman alongside Brian Curran, Oliver Rodriguez, Casey Waters, and then Nikos Sanidakis through your top 42. Still going! Keith Bonilla, Brett Thurman, Philippe Magnon, Sean McInnes, Ryan Skalny, and Jared Fallowell. The first of the cars with no lap time offered is Andrew Sharp and Adam Brockway that will lead us, or rather will follow at the very tail of the 50-car field. They're already rolling, Joey, and they're getting ready to battle. What are you expecting with 50 cars getting ready to rumble?
Well, it was a very, very easy and careful start last time out. Gary Brown on pole got a very early start. That allowed the field to stratify out single file. We'll see if Boris Ovando does the same thing. If not, if he checks up the field quite a bit, if he makes sure everybody stays close, we could have trouble into turn 1.
Also saw very quickly on the weather, it's a bit warmer for these drivers. We'll see how that factors out with a 40-minute race on the clock. Boris Ovando a little bit more equitable as he gets ready to see the green flag and to lead us to the start of round number 3 of the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. The Precision Racing Esports driver still going to lead us single file up through turn number 1. It's side by side for 7th and 8th, with Michael Terrafino getting past Frankie Arvello, but as they fire themselves off of turn number 1, again nice and tidy, no drivers straddling that curb and going around. It's the climb to turn 3 though that sees no movement inside of your top 15 or 20. The sends will come from behind.
It's very, very smart from everybody up front. Andres Espinoza backed out of that move for second to make sure he wasn't checking up both of them. Through turn 3 for the first time, 2 by 2 by 2, a little bit further back, and there's the first spin finally, one of the Unit Sim Sports Ferraris, and yeah, there is trouble at the back.
I don't know who is not involved in this one. Souza, Desjardins, I think those are the main two that are going to lose the most out of it, but it's really allowed a bit of a breakaway now to start building up at the very front. Boris Ovando will slice his way through the first of the two left-handers that leads them into the final sector. Still with Waring, Espinoza, White, and Chris Ball on the case, but drama through turn 3 has taken out several in the mid-pack.
And Beckham Jasir lost 13 spots in that little checkup as well, so the guy who won round 1 was competitive in round 2. It's not going so well for him at the Red Bull Ring, but here we go, out of the final corner for the first time. This is the first time we really see Andrew Waring's pace here. Is he going to elect to save fuel behind Ovando, or is he going to elect to go for the lead if he can? That's the question right now. That's the strategy he's thinking about.
We saw for Gary Brown, fuel saving was important. It will be the name of the game for several here today in terms of focusing on a strategy and trying to then execute through the course of the race. Let's take a look from up above. Up on the climb to turn 3, Beckham Jasir goes to the very inside, and I think I can tell what's about to happen. He climbs himself and mounts the curb, and is that poor Blake Ziti that goes around, and is that Philip Magnon as well?
That was Souza who Jasir got into. Marc-Andre Desjardins is in that purple and yellow Ferrari that went around. Desjardins did nothing wrong. He was just trying to go around the outside and got clipped, but Beckham Jasir, a very, very late dive, was not really there on Lucas Souza, dumps him around, and for as tight as turn 3 is, I'm surprised that more drivers were involved in that.
Yep, no, that could have been a whole lot worse as well. Sean Dickinson going to get in front of Arnaud Genet. This now behind Abner Acosta in the fight for 11th, 12th, and 13th spots. Filtering in through your middle sector. I think it's going to calm down now for a little bit. Only Oliver...
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'll knock on my RaceSpot issue block to it. Oliver Rodriguez did not take to the start. Outside of that, everyone's still out there and running. Right on cue. That's Blake Ziti that's gone around.
That's a commentator's curse right there. You're always pinning them on me, but I think Blake Ziti might have somebody new to blame.
I was just seeing the future.
You may have been. I mean, through that final sequence of corners, it's so high speed. If you check up a little bit, he might have got a little bit of help from a driver behind him, or he might have just flat out lost it, getting a little bit too loose through the corner. We'll have to wait and see. But what we don't have to wait and see is Andrew Waring on the bottom, all sorts of in trouble. But here's Blake Ziti, clips the curb, and that's a loop-de-loop.
That was a loop-de-loop. Sean Dickinson and Abner Acosta, they're now going to fight, and Dickinson's going to get up the inside, and Acosta's going to watch as Arnaud Genet will try and do the very same thing to him, battling off of the corner exit. Yes, Andrew Waring has lost track of Boris Ovando and is feeling the pressure from Andres Espinosa, but they're not really squabbling too much, at least for the time being. It's still outside of the top 10, where they're content to fight a little bit more.
This is a funky little track because none of the results seem to make any sense. The only driver who's been up front this season, who's still up front, is, well, it's two drivers. It's Andrew Waring and Elliott White, but Abner Acosta, who's been fighting for podiums and wins all season, sits P13. Sean Dickinson, P11 for some reason. This is a very strange track. It's a very difficult track to get the setup right with the conversations you have to have. Do I go high downforce or low downforce? And I'm seeing quite a bit of shakeup in the order right now.
Looking rearwards off the back of Arnaud Genet. Acosta now has lost 2 positions since the start of the race. Outside of that, there's not been too much for him to worry about. What happened to Ryan O'Connor? This happened on the second time up in towards turn number 3. Oh, gets a bit of a love tap from behind, and around it goes.
Just a little bit of help there from the BMW behind, but the Frankenstein lime green and purple Mercedes, loop-de-loop, there it goes, and I didn't actually see who that was behind,
Farwell.
But there goes, yeah, Jared Farwell, but there goes Espinosa, finally goes for the dive in turn 3. He says, I'm getting held up right now, I can't wait any longer.
You say held up, I say 3 seconds.
And I don't understand this, because Waring was so fast in qualifying. He was sticking with Ovando on lap 1, and he's just lost all of that pace somehow the second we've got onto like the 3rd lap.
Don't forget that Waring didn't punch in his lap until the very end, as that was Keith Bonilla, who was just stranded or right off corner exit up at turn 3.
Yeah, it looked like there were a few other cars on the scene as well, so I think he may have gotten some help, as here's Andrew Sharp from the back of the grid, just trying to move his way forward on Sean McInnes there in that very easily differentiable orange McLaren. Andrew Sharp in an easily differentiable Rainbow Warrior Mercedes as well, so good on them on the liveries back there.
Yep, no, making our life nice and easy. Again, yeah, Waring punched in the good lap in qualifying quite late in the day. So the question I would pose is, he may be struggling with his pace just a little bit more than that time would indicate. That's Caleb Lehman. We're not looking at him right now, but we'll jump on board with the googly eyes in virtual reality. Those, of course, good for 0.2 of a second.
Always, and he's got a Ferrari back there as well. It's too small for me to tell. I think that's like a 2018 Ferrari F1 car. I mean, it could be worse, but I don't know if that's the car you want to have when we go to Hockenheim a little bit later.
And then he's got, I think, a 599 in red alongside that. And then I don't know what the blue one is. Those are model cars, though, not Legos, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they're definitely model cars. That looks like the kind of thing you can pick up at CVS.
They sell model cars at CVS?
Yeah, you've never seen the CVS model car display?
I try not to go to I try not to be sick, to be fair, but I try not to go to CVS as well.
You don't have to be sick to go to CVS. It's a world of wonders in there.
No, that's Target, my friend.
I don't like going to Target. It's too corporate and clean. It's too crisp.
Target, you got to say it properly.
It's too crisp in Target.
I don't know where that came from, that phenomenon, but I tell you what, it is apparently a thing, because people fly from Singapore, where I grew up, to the US, and then buy suitcases so that they can fill them with things they bought in Target and fly back home with them.
I mean, that's basically what I did when I was in the UK. I was going around Tesco like it was an amusement park.
Oh, but that's because they have actual chocolate there, you know? I mean...
They do, but the thing that they have in the UK that we don't have in the US, other than motorsports on the screen, is at the pharmacies. You can go to Boots, you can get prepackaged sandwiches. CVS, do that for me, and that'll make me happy.
Boot sandwiches. Anyone who lives in the UK, I mean, come on.
They're decent. They're cheap. £5.
That's not wrong. You're not wrong when you say they're cheap. But
Meal deal?
Marks and Spencer's, hello.
Okay, Pasho.
Yeah, I was going to say. And I realized how that sounded. Michael Terrafino, Francis Romero. Saw Romero trying to get the move done initially, and now Terrafino on the outside is going to try and hold off the challenge of that bright purple machine. Going to be no major drama for the time being, although Terrafino, a bit of a slip and slide, now going to drop 2 positions on the gravel.
Yeah, tried to go around the outside of Francis Castillo, just like he did on lap 1, but the BMW said, nope, you are not doing that. We are understeering off the track here, and that's going to be the end of your P7 right now, Terrafino. But even still, a top 10 right now, this is the kind of race that Michael Terrafino needed to have. It'll be great for his confidence if he can keep it up here for the next 30 minutes. He's had a real struggle in the first 2 rounds of the season. The decision to not split this series into Pro and Am has really hurt him. But right now, the GT3 fixed champion from last season and the season before, he's finally racing like a pro. It's good to see.
I still want to know what's on the front of his car.
Well, let's break out the rear chase cam here. Let's break the 4th wall and let's see what's up.
No, we do not do that. Chase cameras are an abomination.
Just pretend it's a drone.
No, I got the schnitzel on screen for you. No, we're not getting the chase cams out.
Some questions are too far.
Yes, no, some things push the limit. 30 minutes almost left to go. We've only done about 10 minutes here, and already it's 3.5 seconds that Boris Ovando leads. Sean Dickinson now climbs up in front of Scott Kimbrough. 2 places gained so far. Dickinson cracks the top 10.
He was unhappy a little bit earlier because the track conditions were a little bit different in practice from what he had practiced in the official series earlier this week, but he's done a good job of applying what he's learned now. He's been a quick adjuster here. It might be a little bit hotter than it was in the official sessions, but still only 84 degrees Fahrenheit, still relatively cool. Still early in the morning, so it'll only get hotter here over the course of the next 30 minutes.
I wonder if these drivers are expecting the cooler conditions that we saw with the GT3 Fix Series. Might just be one of those cases where the luck of the iRacing draw has not been on their side. What's happened then with Sean McInnes? Oh, that seems familiar.
He's our first Kerber of the day, and poor old number 65 as well, Jared Farewell, who's been getting into all sorts of trouble, does exactly the same thing behind him.
Just in sympathy as well.
Yeah, sympathy, synchronicity, and a symphony.
I know, I was about to say we can make a song title with those words. Yeah. Not the only cars having issues, because that's Brian Curran rolling in the wrong direction through the penultimate corner. That's not ideal.
That is not ideal. Has he found a... Oh, that's not a clean bit of track. There was still a car there. That was poor old Lucas Souza coming onto the scene. And the 420 has been murdered there. Brian Curran destroyed, and poor old Lucas Souza in the 105 as well.
I'm not really sure what Lucas Souza could have done differently in that situation.
Yeah, there was just suddenly... It's a blind corner, for one thing. Once you turn in, and suddenly, oh, there's a very, very bright green and purple car right in front of me, and I can't avoid him.
Okay, you want to know what, to be fair? I don't think Brian Curran was necessarily thinking clearly. Because boom goes the dynamite. That's why he was pointed in the wrong direction.
It was one of the Evolve Sim Sport drivers who got into him and actually got away with no damage and no trouble whatsoever, so... Sometimes racing isn't fair. Let's ride on board with them. As you see, one of the Devolve Sim Sport drivers, as I will call him. Oh no, this is Lucas Souza rather. Seeing the car in the scene. Nothing he could really do there other than turn it hard left and probably hit the wall anyway.
Might see a chance for Andrew Waring to get up and under. Espinoza out of the final corner. Has a nose alongside, and now as they rise up towards turn number 1 from the lowest point of the track, the Audi tucks back into line, knows that it's really out of this corner. He wants to be trying to set things up.
And basically this is the race for the lead now, because the only hope that Andrew Waring has and Andres Espinoza has is that Boris Ovando has an oopsie, spins, crashes, gets disqualified, gets a penalty, because he is just extending and extending and extending, and there's nothing they could really do to bring it down. Let's take a look at what happened to Marc-Andre Desjardins here into turn 1. Welcome to the Curb Club. It never ceases.
Yeah, but turn 1 is not usual to really see it play out in that fashion. Speaking of some battling, by the way, Malagon and Acosta, 13th position on offer for these two as they head their way down the hill. It's the inside line for the purple machine, and Abner Acosta tries to switch back through Schlossgold, but never really an opportunity. Behind David Mendonca, Ryan Pucktel and Nane Tavares, they're all fighting as well. 5 cars fighting for 13th spot.
It's a nice David Mendonca sandwich here as well. There's I don't know what the sponsor is on David Mendonca there. It's some kind of German beer, so that might be relevant. Brett Thurman goes around, good for him, but if we can, I can't really read those words because they're in a German font, but I think that is a
Diebels.
I'm gonna go see if that's Austrian.
Wouldn't be shocked. I mean, that seems like a question for the YouTube chat. Which is better beer, Austrian or German?
Brett Thurman on the curb. Oh dear. Both the 69 and the 420 have gotten into trouble. It's a disaster.
Hashtag nice.
Also, Diebels is from Germany, so it's almost relevant.
Close enough. Adjacent.
It's as thematic as Ted Lowendick's Mexican schnitzel.
Yes, no. I was trying to put that abomination out of my mind. 4.5, now 5 seconds, the gap at the very front. Nick McLaughlin and Kwok Nin fighting for 23rd and 24th position. Nin in virtual reality tucked on the inside as JR Williams now tries to join the fun in the SRT Esports car.
Kwok Nin in a less represented Vaporworks SimSport team this week, unfortunately. Nico Sanadakas is here, but got in the session very, very late, and Sabarno Majumdar not here as well, so they're riding all on their lonesome. A little bit later on the brakes is the 13, but too late in the brakes is the 13. Kwok Nin sweeps on by there. Cool, calm, and collected as he always is. That's how you make moves around here.
And now can Michael Pabayano go around the outside? Unlikely, you'd have to think, and indeed it will be JR Williams that holds on to the position. We're closing in on the halfway mark. Track is busy, and it therefore does mean that it's very difficult for drivers to be thinking about doing undercuts. We did see, of course, downtown Gary Brown, 2 seconds shorter in pit lane, was saving fuel after his slowdown penalty. And Joey, that is definitely something that will be a factor, I think.
It's going to be a factor for second place here. Boris Ovando is just too fast to really think about the lead, but everybody in this train right now, whether it's Waring, White, even Cortez, who's a little bit further back, if they're saving fuel right now, there could be a second place on offer for them. That's how close everybody is. That's the strategy you need to think about right now, because you're going to wait as long as humanly possible. As J.R. Williams does prove me wrong and come in, you don't really want to do that, because all of these guys are in a dangerous place where if they pit, they're going to be dead in the middle of the pack. 30th, 31st, they're going to be stuck in traffic. They can't afford to do that. They've got to extend it for as long as possible.
Gap continues to just grow bit by bit. 29.685, that's the fastest lap of the race. Boris Ovando, the only driver that has been able to work his way down below the 1 minute 30 bracket in this race. Day comes to an end for Marc-Andre Desjardins, and, well, it ends in a spinny one.
Yeah, that's the only way that his day could end, but look at this. Andrew Waring getting the elbows out finally. Around the outside of Andres Espinosa into the penultimate corner. That's a difficult move to make. He's a little bit later on the brakes, and he's finally got it done.
Elliott White decided he wanted no part of that. Backed up initially and now tries to set up the Ferrari to lose 2 positions in as many corners, but White searching for the spot. It's Espinosa that goes hunting for the draft up the climbing towards turn number 1. They all bounce themselves over the curb. Who gets the best run? Off and out of the corner.
Ferrari of Espinosa seems very, very quick in a straight line, and it's in an Audi sandwich with Andrew Waring and Elliott White. Let's see. Does Espinosa go for it? Does Waring even think to defend? He does, and Espinosa can't really do anything with that as Waring parks it in the middle of the road. Just as a little bit further back, one of our Lamborghinis of Dave Menino is also parked in the middle of the road.
That's through the final corner as well, so that likely going to be contact related. Now, we have had a handful of cars start their descent down on towards pit lane. Fernando Yaquez, Ted Lowendick, and JR Williams have all decided it's time to make their pit stops. And while we've now got effectively almost an 8-car choo-choo train for second on back, it's anyone's game, I would say, at this point. Waring does now lead them, yes, but as we get closer to that pit stop cycle, the more it checks up, the more opportunities to do something with strategy.
You know who's always thinking about strategy? Martin Crisp always has a trick up his sleeve. He might be one of those drivers who's saving fuel in the middle of the pack right now. Frankie Arvello up in the top 10 for one of the first times this season. He might be thinking strategy as well, but Poor old Dave Menado through the final corner. We've seen that Lamborghini go around like this in the high-speed corners so many times, but the second he turns into the final corner, he was on the curb a little bit, got it unsettled when he turned in, and it was just Drift City all the way through.
So across the line at the end of lap number 12 for these drivers. They climb up 63 meters from the bottom of the track, basically at the start-finish line, to then up at turn number 3, and then you descend, of course, down another 63 meters. Not as notable as maybe Mount Panorama, but the elevation plays such a influential part of the racing here. Pabiano, Fonseca, a couple more cars down into pit lane this time by. Before the halfway point as well, these are drivers trying to get out of the mid-pack and find some clean air to punch in some fast laps.
That's one of the sort of benefits about being at the back of the field. If you are Michael Pabiano or Miguel Angel Fonseca, you can afford to pit right now because you were already in the 20s, the 30s. If you pit, you're coming out in clean air guaranteed, as there's some dust being kicked through the Armco in the middle of the field.
Oh, it's your face, Joey.
Yep, I believe that's Nick McLaughlin.
It is. Is your face good luck or not?
I mean, this season would suggest no, so maybe they need to make it the Arjuna Gakapati fan club.
No,
I told them they might have to switch it up.
Let's not do that. And, well, it's Kerja Vu. Does that work? I don't think it does.
It might. Did he get help, though? Because that's Kwok in, I believe, to the inside of him. But no, Kwok did nothing there. Nick McLaughlin.
I tell you what. Let's ride with Kwok and see.
This might be a Gary Brown. No, nothing. No, miles behind. But poor old Nick McLaughlin. He's so good at the Red Bull Ring normally. This is one of his best tracks. I remember back when I was in the PRL Ferrari Challenge, he out-qualified me by 0.7 of a second and won by 20. Unfortunately, the Audi not serving him so well, though.
Now, that's Sean Campbell levels of winning there. As Scott Kimbrough, I think, missed his box there. Backs up into it eventually. That will cost him a couple of seconds. We had the Lionheart Sports Car Series kick off here on RaceSpotTV last night, Joey. Did you see the margin that Sean Campbell won by?
It was about 26 seconds, and he finished ahead of a GTP. The GTP did crash, but still.
Yes. And Sean also was behind 10th and 11th and GT3, who were fighting in the last 5 minutes, and so he decided very kindly that he was not going to pass them.
We need to get Sean Campbell out of his comfort zone again. We need him in the Xfinity series here in the PRL for another season.
Well, that'd be fun. That's tomorrow night, of course. Trucks in Xfinity back on deck tomorrow. Why don't we go disturb Nick McLaughlin for a little bit? Because we've talked to Ted Lowendick already. I think it's probably time that Joey figure out what happened there with that curb.
Hello.
Welcome to the Curb Club.
Oh man, I had some real nasty deja vu from a couple seasons ago doing the near identical thing in a Ferrari.
Was that the race that you won in the Ferrari Challenge, or was that a different season?
That might have been a difference. I definitely did not win that race.
Because you did win in the Ferrari Challenge. It was over me. It was by a good 20 seconds. And I was coming into this week thinking, you know, Nick McLaughlin, this is a guy who loves the Red Bull Ring. He's really fast here. What's not working with the Audi right now?
Honestly, it feels good. I'm just, man, the level of competition out here is very strong. I'm still having a blast out here, minus the spin, but yeah, I don't know. The car feels good. Track feels good. I don't know.
What was for dinner beforehand?
We had some meatloaf with the kiddo. She loves herself some meatloaf.
Nice Austrian. I mean, I love meatloaf as well, so Papa, I'm joining the family.
Sounds good. See you for dinner.
Woo! It's not a fan club anymore, it's a family, but I'll let Nick McLaughlin get back to fixing his race here. Because I think Michael Terrafino and Frankie Arvello and a couple of others are having all sorts of issues here.
I mean, if you want some beef, Terrafino's got you covered. He's been able to work his way through what was an impressive qualifying session and maintain that position. Still runs 8th. Crisp and Romero not too far in front, but then there is a full almost 2 seconds up to the out of a second spot, excuse me, where it's still Andrew Waring that runs at the very front. Still yet to see the majority of the field down onto pit lane. I think this will be a lap, though, where we see a few more commit. You can see Dickinson peeling off to stage right. His teammate Martin Crisp will stay out, but the SimCity Racing number 64 finds his way to the box.
Got to get it slowed down there. It's a very tricky pit entry with the entry off of the second to last corner. Then you are full throttle for a little while until you finally get to the yellow cone. but Dickinson does get it slowed down. Juan Malagan behind him as well. Kicking off the strategy here. We're just past halfway now. This is when everybody's going to start thinking we've waited long enough. There's not that much fuel in the tank anymore. There's not going to be much traffic because everybody else has pitted. I definitely expect to see our leaders coming in the next 1 or 2 laps, if not this lap.
Are on to lap 16. Brett Thurman also coming down into pit lane as the windshield wiper goes off. We've already talked about having rain teased on April Fool's earlier this week, or earlier over the weekend, I should say, but windshield wipers just teasing us even more, Joey. It's like we can do something about the rain that isn't actually here yet.
One day, hopefully by the end of the year. I'm hoping for that.
Hopefully before Petit Le Mans, before the final of the endurance special events. That matters.
That's what, October? So that should be... That's enough time. That's enough of a window. That's a good deadline.
I realized there would maybe be the Fuji 10 hour after that, so I catered my answer just to make sure I clarified that correctly. Espinosa will come on in, 60 minutes on the clock, followed in by Martin Crisp, but Ovando, Waring, White, Cortez all staying out.
And Terrafino offed again on that lap, so understandably he's staying out, or interestingly rather, he's staying out, and he's not going to minimize his losses there. But Boris Ovando is basically doing a Red Bull Ring track day right now. He's the fastest driver in the field. Waring's been too busy fighting to compete with him. As the 17 goes around, that's Scott Kimbrough, who was in contention for the top 10 before he pitted, and that's the end of his day.
Yep, a couple of cars really finding out just how treacherous the edges of the track will elect to be here. It's always good when you're leading a race and the commentators don't have much to talk about you, and so we turn the worrying eye of the RaceSpotTV's commentator's curse for the moment on Boris Ovando, who likely, surely, is going to bring us into pit lane with less than 15 minutes to go, leading by 7 full seconds.
He's going to be having flashbacks to last season, though. When he came into the pits, there was a lapped car in front of him that was, I think, trying to come in, and he got into him as well. So it's not been a good couple of seasons for Boris Ovando with the pit entry here. But here we go, out of the penultimate corner. Ooh. He's going one more time around.
Not bad. Will Andrew Waring follow suit, or does that Audi slow down? It will, and pirouettes off to the right, but not followed in by Elliott White, I do believe, who stays out along with Gonzalo Cortez, but the bright purple Mercedes of Francis Romero finds his way to the lane.
It's a pair of Franks in very late in the brakes there was Frankie Arvello at the bottom of your screen. Almost got into the back of Francis Castillo there, but luckily no damage on the two of them. The Audi did get it stopped. And now we see how many of these guys in the train have been able to save fuel. It's a tricky pit entry there for Frankie Arvello because he has another car parked there. Still manages to get it stopped, though, and doesn't look like it's hurt him too much.
Who wins the race off of pit road, though? That will be the question. Andrew Waring has been stationary for 20 seconds and counting. I'm not sure what's happened to him, but clearly...
Did he get an unsafe pit entry? Did he turn in too late? I think he may have.
I don't see a black flag now, but it may be because it's being cleared because he's serving the penalty. But whatever the case may be, Andrew Waring has not emerged where he would want and expected to have been.
All these guys are going to jump him here. No big changes other than Arnaud Genet jumping Frankie Arvello. So good pit stop for Arnaud there. Definitely saved a little bit of fuel. It's got him one position once everything cycles out. I think that'll be P7 or P8 for Arnaud Genet, as there's Waring leaving the pits. 52 seconds. That smells like a penalty.
Yeah, because it would be, what, 42 and a bit if it was just a full service or something with a full tank of fuel, which of course we do not have in this series. So penalty likely right on the money. Boris Ovando, hopefully with no similar sorts of dramas, brings the Precision Racing Esports 122 to the very end of pit lane.
Oh, and he's overcooked his box. Luckily, he has a 7-second margin to play with, so he can afford a mistake like that. Elliott White comes in behind him. Elliott White misses it too. They're doing something with those Precision Racing Esports brakes that's not working out very well, but there goes Boris Ovando. Huge lead. Still waiting for second place Elliott White to get out.
They are Indy 500 spec brakes, is clearly what is happening. Look how close Gonzalo Cortez is going to be on the pit lane exit to Elliott White. Now, where will Espinosa be firing it through in the Ferrari? There he is, out of turn one, already, of course, with temperature and heat into his tires. You'll get past Cortez, but I don't think you'll have enough momentum to completely challenge Elliott White. But now a 3-car contingent squabbling for second.
No, you do not get by Gonzalo Cortez that easily. That's what Andres Espinosa just learned there. That is a guy who is going to go for a dive every single time it is possible. And we just learned that, but we also learned that sometimes that isn't the best way of action, because Andres Espinosa gets an excellent switchback there. And as soon as Gonzalo Cortez tries to steal second away, Espinosa's going to steal it back, and they've both lost a solid second to Andrew Waring now.
Yeah, but still within the draft. It's not Andrew Waring, it's Elliott White.
Oh, that's right.
No, don't worry.
I forgot that Andrew Waring's been erased from existence.
Apparently. What happens at the end? He got finished by the race control, automated race control. Where is he actually at on track right now? He's in 30th. He's just gone and passed Dave Menino. That's gonna be frustrating.
Yeah, his patience is gonna be wearing thin.
Yeah. My patience is wearing thin as well. Almost 10 seconds the margin at the front as drivers come across the line in this fight for second. Boris Ovando so far clear that we're not going to really need to talk about him too much more. Sean Dickinson has climbed 6 positions though. He's still got plenty more fighting left to come.
Look at Terrafino behind him, back in P7. He's got a huge train behind him though. He's made a couple of mistakes before coming into the pits. Now is really crunch time for Michael Terrafino. It's the ultimate challenge with a ton of pros behind him. Can he hold on to P7? Could he even get P6 from Sean Dickinson? He does have good luck on his side. It's something I just noticed. We are in Austria, and that's the perfect place for Vienna beef.
Good point.
Certified. And also, this season, he's remembered to take the wireframe off the paint scheme.
No, he has not. No, he has not.
Oh, no.
You can see it. Just about. I promise you
can. Let's look really close. I think that might be is that a deliberate design choice? Because there's beautiful blue.
I promise you,
blue on the side.
It is the wireframe just colored.
Oh no, Michael! Yes. I was so excited for you. Here we go through the.
It is the wireframe. I promise you, Joey.
The back doesn't have it. The back doesn't have it. The blue used to have a white frame on it. I'm sure.
I think the BMW has been mandated to always have a black rear because of the way the carbon patterns work. Unfortunately, I know too much about the way the GT3 paints work because I had to design the decal layers for MC Esports last year. Ooh. It was not fun.
Doesn't sound like it.
No, especially given that look at the tires on the side of the cars. Remember who sponsored the MC Esports series last year? Yeah. It was really fun as well when we got told that the schedule was going to take us to the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and suddenly I get the question, can we replace all the Firestone logos with Michelin logos on the track?
Yeah, go down to iRacing headquarters, just change it up real quick.
I say that because you know how that would be really cool. I get that that's a feature that could be abused very easily. Such as painting a certain Formula One car with the livery of another Formula One team. But as a series organizer, oh, that sounds amazing.
I still haven't figured out what's on the nose of Terrafino's car, by the way. I have no idea.
I will relent to the chase cam in the post-race show.
Okay, I'll survive with that.
Okay. Well, that assumes that he gets that far.
I think he will. He's doing a great job here. He's holding in the train here. Sean Dickinson up ahead is an excellent rabbit to follow. Target fixation's never a good thing, but when you're behind a driver who doesn't really make many mistakes and is also very fast, it does sometimes help to follow a guy who's very comfortable.
Yeah, but you know what he hasn't done?
Pass him.
Colored the car, Sean Dickinson.
I'm still a fan of it. I like the highlighter yellow and the gray. Oh dear. Speaking of highlighter yellow, and there's the second Joey Tebben fan club car. Ted Lowendick is beached.
And so clearly Joey Tebben's face is not a good sign up here in the Styrian Mountains. We'll go straight to the replay, Joey, because it was a battle where Ted, well, okay, to be fair, your face was just the target for Caleb Lehman there.
Yeah, Caleb Lehman and a couple of other drivers just coming onto the scene there. I believe that was Tommy Brisson just not being able to avoid that. This is a weird one for Tommy because I don't know why he swerved to where Ted was going, but that's one of those split-second decisions that any decision you make is usually a wrong decision. And Francis Castillo, as they were all arguing over 30th place there, they're arguing over 7th place, and Francis has gotten by Michael again.
Is it Francis Castillo or Francis Romero? I'm very confused.
I believe it's the Spanish naming system. His name is Francis Castillo Romero, but the Castillo is his first last name, his main last name, and the Romero is the maternal last name.
Yeah, this is the problem, because I've got the driver list that the broadcast has is just Francis Romero. Terrafino's going to lose another spot and now going to maybe even drop another one to Genet because Malagon bullies his way on forward. Terrafino going to have to now watch out for Arvello potentially as well.
Don't fall out of the top 10, Michael. It's been such a good race until now, but he's got the inside into the penultimate corner and he almost gets into Arnaud Genet. There may have even been a little bit of contact there. That was extremely close corners, and there goes Arvello. Good save, though.
Great save, but he's out of it. What was that hand gesture from Genet, do you think?
I don't know. I was too busy looking at the smoke from Frankie Arvello in the background that I didn't see it, but it was a clean overtake. There was very close quarters, though.
It was almost Italian there from Arnaud for a second. The Mamma Mia sort of you know what I'm doing with my hand right now.
Yes, Italians can understand these things.
Yes, no, exactly. It's instinctive. We're still watching a potential fight for second, but I get the sneaking suspicion that Elliott White has got enough pace to hold on to second. Andres Espinosa has been knocking at the door, but just can't get close enough.
Just needs a decent exit at one of the best places on the track, but Elliott White has been rock solid. He's been completely consistent, and any advantage that Andres Espinosa might have on the straights in this Ferrari is completely nullified because he can't get the exit he needs out of turn 1, can't get the exit he needs out of turn 3, and every other place in the track they're just dead even on pace, which is the worst possible scenario. Just as I say that, Elliott White makes a mistake coming into turn 7 and loses second and third.
Slow down for sure. Not sure where he picked it up, but he bleeds his time back and falls into line. Now, did Martin Crisp revert to an old paint scheme?
Maybe. Did he revert to an old paint scheme, or did we download the wrong one? That's the question.
Okay. Hashtag blame Hugo if anything went wrong for this broadcast.
Yes. He was in the he was in the CMYK one last week.
Yes, no, he had the very colorful one last week.
This is not Martin Crisp's fault. We recuse him of any responsibility.
Okay, wait. No. As the arbiter of all things RaceSpot Media, I'm about to go find out.
We'll find the receipts, but I'm on Team Crisp right now. I believe in him.
Because they're called crisps, you know, they're not chips.
Depends. Cortez!
And as that happens, Sean Dickinson is going to get passed potentially by Francis Romero as well. Again, deja vu with that same curb that's caught so many out today.
Even Gonzalo Cortez having such a great race, using his usual aggression. Wasn't even being aggressive, just went a little bit too wide as there's some aggression. Dickinson tries to go for a switchback and he just got disqualified.
Well, I tell you what, if there's going to be anyone that's angry, Sean Dickinson is going to be absolutely fuming.
I mean, he'll definitely be angry about the 4X, but to be fair, if you've already accumulated 13 incident points at that point, you've done a good amount of that yourself.
I know what you mean, but to just be sent like that, I mean...
Yeah,
it's why we have a general rule on RaceSpotTV of not actually talking about exact incident numbers if we know what they are. Because we have seen cases where drivers have intentionally hit other people to get them onto an incident limit, whether it's a drive-through, whether it's a disqualification. And if it changes the way that you race, whether it be which lines that you take to, get speed out of the corners, or whether it be how willing you are to get physical with some of those that you're fighting against.
It's really weird to race against the numbers like that, but here's the replay of what happened. That's Dickinson in the middle of the sandwich with Romero up ahead, Malagon behind. Dickinson was trying to go for a switchback on Castillo there and just hit the back of him. So I think that was the 4X. I don't think Malagon did anything wrong there. So poor old Sean Dickinson.
It looked a lot different from that first angle that we had.
It did. But it was an attempt at a switchback, was just a little bit clumsy, didn't work out, and Sean Dickinson was on Zoom with us last week. I think he's happy that he wasn't on with us this week, because we'd be seeing the destruction of his wheel right now.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I did confirm, by the way, speaking of SimCity Racing, that's the right paint for Martin Crisp.
So how did we get the special one last week?
Apparently we only got it for 1 week.
1 week exclusive, apparently.
I know. What a shame. Well, we're going to have 2 laps to go for these drivers because your leader, Boris Ovando, is now 15 seconds clear at the front after 38 and a bit minutes. Andres Espinosa still in second with White, and now Crisp tucked in behind. Maybe it'll be this fight for second that has the most attention on it in these closing stages.
And White has been given a massive gift here because he was in 4th after... Well, actually, he was in 5th, I think. Martin Crisp got by him, but Cortez got out of the way by spinning on the curb. Speaking of Gonzalo Cortez, he's going to serve a drive through 13 instant points here, and...
So is your face.
Yep, Ted Lowendick. He's got 13 as well.
Poor Ted Lowendick. I think this is the karma for not providing us a background for today.
I mean, he went through all the effort of preparing that schnitzel. He actually prepared it last week, then took it out of the freezer before tonight, and then reheated it. So he's put a lot of effort into this, and you can't stay mad at him. Look at his sad little face.
We didn't even get the schnitzel. Got a picture of it.
We got to bring it back.
You got a
next
picture
week,
of it as well, to be clear.
Next week, I got to think about, because we are going to Jerez next week.
Oh,
right?
Okay. At this point, I don't even know if we are.
Well, I'm going to get him to make a paella or a Spanish omelet.
Ooh, okay. I'll take a paella.
Oh, Elliott White. This is the closest he's been through the second to last corner. He's going to have a great run here down the front straight. Boris Ovando took the white flag. This is the last lap, so this is Elliott White's final chance.
And again, the question I think on plenty of people's minds will be incident points and how close to the various limits are they? They got time behind to the 96 of Francis Castillo Romero and Juan Malagon. They fight for 5th and the final spot in the top 5. Out of turn 1, not a great run for Elliott White, and it should be status quo up the hill into turn 3.
Not going to be able to go for a dive here. He's too far back, but what he can do is brake a little bit later, get a little bit closer, and maximize the exit off of turn 3 here. See if he can get the run down that back straight up the top of the hill. It's also a teammate battle for the top 5 here with Francis Castillo versus Juan Malagon, Porsche versus Mercedes. Doesn't look like anything's going to happen there, but will there be a dive from Elliott White? There is no room to do so. Andres Espinosa rather goes full defensive.
Was an attempted switchback, but Espinosa was wise to it. Parked the car on the apex. White, though, with a better run, will try to get to the inside, through into turn 6. And the Audi had an overlap, but backed out of it and allowed Espinosa to reclaim the position. They'll continue to tussle, though, through the final couple of corners, but at the front of the field. Dominating proceedings here in the Styrian Mountains. Boris Ovando puts the ghost of days past behind him to come out on top in round 3 of the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. A fantastic victory from the Precision Racing Esports driver. It's side by side through the penultimate corner, but Elliott White around the outside will grab second spot out of Andres Espinosa, who loops it out of the final corner. He'll drop outside of the top 5. Martin Crisp will inherit a podium spot as a result. An exciting day and an exciting finish here at the Red Bull Ring.
Well, we got 2 things to watch on that final lap. First, we got to see how Elliott White got by Espinosa, and then we have to see Martin Crisp getting into the back of Espinosa there through the final corner. Did Espinosa check up a little bit and catch Crisp by surprise? First and foremost, we'll see him almost go 3 wide through the penultimate corner there. Elliott White does get by, but watch the 3rd car in line here, Martin Crisp, through the final corner. No, that is on Martin Crisp, I think. Espinosa is not going to be very happy about that.
But I do wonder if maybe Espinosa had run out of fuel or something, because that was very, very slow, all things considered. And Espinosa did back up to the line, interestingly, I think. Yeah, not sure. Just look at the margin from Espinosa up the road. That's I think, what really is confusing me here. I would have to say. I'm trying to grab us a look on board because I think that would be the best way to figure out what happened.
I think he just got a little bit of understeer, frankly, through the final corner. It was slower than he expected, and it was slower than Martin Crisp expected.
Well, Gonzalo Cortez is definitely running his way to the line on fumes.
He'll get there. Let's see if is he gonna crawl into the camera shot here? No, he's too far away. Hey, there he goes. He's done it.
Okay, I tell you what. On board, let's listen. I'm pretty sure he's out of fuel. He's spluttering in second there.
Yeah, he might be, and Martin Crisp didn't do anything deliberately either way. It was just he did not expect that speed out of Espinosa.
See, look,
it was sputtering.
It didn't look right either. Espinosa crossed the line. Where was he? Down in 34th position. I said he was going to be out of the top 5.
Well, I think he got 13 incident points with the contact as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. So add misery to what
Martin Crisp did as well. He's off the podium. Francis Castillo gets the podium because Martin Crisp hit 13 with that contact.
Well, we were waiting for the race results, and there's a reason why we wait, because they do tend to have this miraculous ability to be changed at the flip of a switch. Here's a look at how the unofficial race results are. Yes, it's a Precision Racing Esports 1 and 2, a CRT Purple 3 and 4, but what a road to get there. 18 seconds or so the margin that Boris Ovando enjoyed in front of Elliott White and Francis Castillo Romero, who grabbed the final spot on the podium, gaining 7 spots. Juan Malagon gained 11 though. Arnaud Janine gained 8. Michael Terrafino cracked the top 6, with Ryan Pucktel working his way forward as well. Frankie Arvello, Abner Acosta, and Devin Horvath. That's your rest of the top 10, with David Mendoza in the number 55 across the line in 11th. Nani Tavares 12th. Kwok Nin climbs up in the Vaporworks entry. 21 positions to be classified 13th. He's got Yaquez, J.R. Williams, Peter Nodwell, Michael Pabiano, Joshua Spears, Miguel Angel Fonseca, and Alex Bergstrom, all inside of the top 20 with him. Beckham Jasir, no longer undefeated in the Precision Racing League. He struggled to a 21st finish in front of Tommy Brissone, with Andrew Waring, Martin Crisp, 2 drivers that were running up at the front that will be quite frustrated with those points hauls. Nick McLaughlin, Dave Menino, Caleb Lehman, Ryan Skolny, Joey Haynes, and then Blake Ziti. That's your top 30. And then another 7 cars on your lead lap. Philip Magnon, Ryan O'Connor, Andrew Sharp, Andres Espinosa, Brett Thurman, Kevin Norris, and Gonzalo Cortez. Sean McInnes and Scott Kimbrough, they're classified 1 lap down, with Ted Lowendick 3 laps down. It's Casey Waters, Sean Dickinson, Jared Farrell, Marc-Andre Desjardins, Nikos Sanidakis, Lucas Souza, Brian Curran, Keith Mania, Oliver Rodriguez, and Adam Brockway. That is the 50 cars that made up your field here for round 3 of the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. Well, it's time to head down to Victory Lane, and let's not dawdle any longer. Joey Tebbin is standing by with Boris Ovando.
Indeed, after all that craziness behind, it was an easy day up front for you, Boris Ovando. After being in contention for the win last season, having trouble in the pits, how sweet is this to come back to have a dominant win at the Red Bull Ring?
Oh man, it feels so good. I know that I had a little bit of faster car just because of the turbo, but gap in the field and just keeping it consistent, it really is a good step forward for the rest of the season.
We mentioned that at the head of the broadcast. We hinted at it, that the turbos were going to be a little bit better here in the higher altitudes. Were you expecting that coming into this week? Is that why you chose the BMW to start this season, and how much did it really help you?
No, just the BMW is one of my favorite cars. I know a lot of people hate it, but I like it, and so I just went with the car that I really liked. Seems like it's really close this season with all the cars, so it doesn't really matter that much. Today the track temp was actually about 27 degrees, whereas in practice all week it was about 18 degrees. So that was a little bit of a shift. Right before the race started, I actually changed the wing angle on my car, put a little bit more wing, and I think that helped a lot through the second part of the lap.
Well, Boris, congrats on redemption, congrats on a 3rd win in the PRL, and we will see you next week at Jerez, we believe.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Boris Ovando victorious at the Red Bull Ring, the comeback of the season. And next up, it is old 2nd place Elliott White for the 2nd time this season. Elliott, it was crazy for you as well, with Cortez, with Martin Crisp. You were in all sorts of battles there, essentially fighting for the lead in 2nd.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I was really struggling at the end. It seemed like my car drove better behind people. I couldn't really. I felt like I was tight and loose when I got out front, so really struggled. But I mean, luckily it worked out okay. I assume Andreas had a problem with fuel. That's why he was backing up to me, I imagine. But yeah, it was fun stuff.
Next week, it's kind of a great equalizer because it's a new track at Jerez. I assume people have driven it since it's been released, but we've never raced there. Are you looking forward to racing at a new track next week? You think it'll equal out things out?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'll be there. I think I will be. Hopefully, we'll see. But I really have no idea what to expect. I mean, I don't even. I've never looked at the track, so. I really have no clue, to be honest. I don't even know what kind of track it is.
Well, congrats on second place either way. We'll see you in the mystery next week, and actually we'll see you tomorrow night, and hopefully we'll get you for more practice than we did at Richmond.
Oh yeah, that should be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Elliot
Thank
White,
you guys.
always a pleasure. Elliot White, second place here at the Red Bull Ring. And we've got unlucky or lucky 13th. It was a great drive forward through the field for Kwok Nin, third driver we get to talk to tonight. Well, what else can I say? A drive forward through the field? You survived when nobody else could. How did you do it?
I actually did a lot of practice last week for it. One thing that kind of throws people off is the off tracks, but you know, once you really know how to get the off tracks down and drive to the limit, I mean, it's a fun track to drive on. I felt bad for Nick McLaughlin. I really wanted to race him. I raced him in the past and the previous seasons, and I enjoy racing him side by side. But after he got that spun, man, I was just like, no, McLaughlin. And then I started to lose the fun a little bit. But you know, I just had to just stay focused and try to get positions.
Well, congrats on P13 here. Maybe it was lucky for you, Kwok, and we will see you next week.
Sir, thank you for the broadcast. Y'all have a good day.
Always a pleasure. And a fun fact there, Arjuna, least incident points of anybody in the race, 3. Who did it? Race leader Boris Ovando and Kwok Nin.
Oh, okay, so I did expect you to say Kwok Nin, but Boris Ovando is maybe a bit more of a surprise.
I mean, he didn't really have anybody to fight with respect to him, so he had it pretty easy.
He was still the fastest. I liked what Kwok said there, which is that you can avoid the off tracks if you learn to drive the track in a certain way.
Yeah, back in the day, I learned how to drive the track a certain way, and then I would just get lazy and use the off tracks and abuse them. So that's why Kwok Nin and the likes of Boris Ovando are so much more disciplined than your average driver, and that's what gets you those good results in this series.
It does. It's consistency at the end of the day as well. So tentatively, we're going to Jerez next week. Maybe we'll be going to Barber. We'll have to wait and find out here live on RaceSpotTV. This is what we expect again. We will split up fixed and sprint, going off to different parts of the world before we reconvene at Belle Isle, then head over to the Green Hell, the Nordschleife, before Barber, Road America, Zandvoort, and Hockenheim close things out. But Elliot White, I think, already mentioned it, Joey. We're going to a track next week. We're going into the unknown.
Into the great unknown. It'll be very, very interesting. It's already been an uppy-downy season. We've seen 3 different winners in 3 different races. We've seen drivers who are uncompetitive suddenly be competitive, and it's going to be even more crazy next week. I have no idea what to expect, and that's exactly what we want.
More craziness, boy. You're trying to absolutely murder our voices, aren't you? Well, if you want to hear what a croaky Joey Tebben and Arjuna Kankipati sound like, maybe you'll have to join us next week. Let's not forget, the PRL train continues to rumble for the next couple of days here live on RaceSpotTV. So as always, stay connected to us by subscribing to our YouTube channel and hitting that bell to get notified every single time we go live. A double header of GT3 action in the books, and as ever, the Styrian Mountains were a perfect place to go racing. We'll see you next time here, though, on RaceSpotTV for PRL GT3 action. For Joey Tebben, alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for your company, and we'll see you next time from 2 different tracks around the world to throw these GT3 cars back out for action.